Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, getting better. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Janet Garcia.
Hello.
Joined by the one and only Kyle Hilliard.
Hello.
Why does it feel like it's been 16 years since you were on this show?
I think I haven't been on in like 2 or 3 episodes.
And for Kyle, that's like 16 years.
You shared stats recently that I think fans had made of like the most attended, right, podcast. I was number 2 after you.
Nice.
So
Congratulations,
when I'm
man.
not here.
Yeah, you're right. It feels off. Speaking of feeling off, we have Jacob Keller.
Oh, I'm here and I'm off.
And we have Jeff Marchiafava.
Me.
Oh, hi, I'm here too. On this episode... On this episode...
That was just rude, Ben.
Yeah, you're right, you're right. We are talking about 2025's Overlook games. We normally do this at the end of the year on Bonus Pod, our Patreon exclusive podcast. On the main podcast, we're talking about, hey, here's like 1 million games you all should have been playing throughout the year. I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know why you didn't celebrate these great games that were overlooked. And the community rightfully said, hey, hotshots, why don't you do this like throughout the year? Why don't you check in more often? Just make sure there's not great gems that are hidden just below the surface. And so that's what this episode of the podcast is all about. We're also going to be talking about some newer games. You know what I'm talking about. Why do I even need to tell you? But I will. We're talking a little bit about Deliver at All Costs. We're talking about a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle video game, the Sea of Stars DLC. Kyle wants to talk about a game called Blades of Fire, which I was like, what? Why does Kyle want to talk about this game that maybe is not that great? But then I saw the developer and I said, oh, now I'm intrigued by Blades of Fire. And then back half of the show, we have some great questions people submitted over there on Patreon. Greatly appreciate everybody. Okay, 2025, Overlook games, hidden gems. I started to make my list and I'm like, well, look, it's not like we're bumping these games up in a huge way, but I was like, a lot of the hidden gems I feel like technically I talked about on the podcast already. I think like Sunderfolk, I still think is a hidden gem. Star of Providence from, Donkey's publisher. I really love that game. I don't think that's getting the love it deserves. Rift of the Necrodancer. Despelote, I guess we just talked about last week, but I still feel like that game needs another couple notches up based on how much I loved it personally. Another game in that category that we talked about on the podcast back in February that I have really enjoyed this year and also could use a boost is a game called Spirit Swap Lo-Fi Beats to Match 3-2. Everybody, this is from the developer Soft Not Weak. And we lined something up with them. So this game, where it is Pokemon Puzzle League, Tetris Attack, Panel de Pon, but more queer-friendly is kind of their pitch overall here. But it's basically that type of puzzle game with spells where if you arrange things in certain ways, you can bam, attack your opponent. Great 2-player mode in there as well. But Spirit Swap, Lo-Fi Beats to Match 3-2 to celebrate hidden gems from 2025. If you support MinnMax on Patreon at even the $2 tier, even just $2. If you've enjoyed any of MinnMax's content recently, jump in on Patreon at even that $2 tier before this Monday, May 26th, and we will DM you on Patreon with a Steam code for Spirit Swap Lo-Fi Beats to Match 3-2. Thanks to the development team for sending over 200 codes. We will message on all social media when we are out, but right now we have them. So if you want a great game and you want to help support independent games media and you think any of MinnMax's content recently has been worth $2, jump in, get a great game, and we can celebrate this thing together. So shout out to the developers of Spirit Swap, Lo-Fi Beats to Match 3-2. Also, you can jump in, or if you upgrade your tier, if you want to jump to the $2 or $5 tier, we'll also DM you. We'll DM you a Steam code for Spirit Swap, Lo-Fi Beats to Match 3-2. All right, let's get to some other new games, some other hidden gems. We asked the community in the Discord to share some pics of what they think is a hidden gem from 2025. One that came up quite a bit, and then Jeffem was echoing it as well, is a game called Starvaders that's out on Steam. Jeffem, how would you describe one Starvaders?
I would describe it as a Jeffem game because I have problems.
Correct.
It's a roguelike deck building game, but it's kind of, I guess the core that they built off of is Space Invaders. I assume that's where the Vaders comes from, but it's essentially you'll play a bunch of different. You'll go through a bunch of different combat missions. It's actually like more fleshed out than a lot of roguelikes I end up playing, and there's more story stuff and a solid theme to it. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which I appreciate. But the basic gameplay is you'll kind of have a big grid, like a Tetris shaped well.
Yeah.
And you're a little mech. You control mech. You can unlock different types of mechs that have different, decks and whatnot. But enemies will come in from the top, and then every turn they'll move down closer towards the bottom. And you're trying to just get rid of them before they get down to the bottom. That's where they will start causing damage to you or doom. And if you get too much of that, your run ends. To combat them, you have a deck of cards, and you will be playing out cards that will, let you move or let you shoot. And from there, you're just like building up a more and more interesting deck and pulling off these crazy combos. You have different bombs that you can throw out, and then you'll get a card that will allow your bombs to actually shoot out projectiles. And it's just like it just keeps building, and it just keeps comboing. And I just got completely sucked into it last night because it's like it's incredibly well balanced, and every level that you play, it's just like there are so many enemies. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, and somehow, like, by the time that they're all right down at the bottom, you'll pull off some huge combo and wipe everything off the map, and then you get like a big reward, and you go to the store and get more cards and stuff, and just keep on building. You have relics, or artifacts, which are basically like the passive buffs that you have in all of these type of games. And it's just like build a really interesting, engine that just gets more and more powerful, but you're just kind of a little character that's moving around, and it's all very positional, like where you go, and the boss battles are interesting. And then there's just like so many unlocks and different things that you can get to like kind of blow out that pool of different stuff that you can get on future runs.
Yeah, we talk about the positioning. That was the thing is, deck building, it's a sensitive genre for me. I'm not in love with it overall. And then I looked at gameplay of this thing and I was like, oh, wait a minute. It has flavors of a Mega Man Battle Network.
Okay, that's what I was going to say, yeah. Have you played Mega Man Battle Network?
Yeah, that's also what I was going to say.
No, I haven't.
We're all going to say it.
Yeah,
isn't Battle Network like more actiony though, right? Like, I know there's tactics to it, but aren't you like actively pressing a button to shoot in Battle Network?
God, I don't think so. If I remember, it's literally been since the first game came out when I played it. But no, I think it's just kind of playing the cards or the chips, and you're like taking up the different spots in that grid. But imagine that, except things are kind of descending Space Invaders style, and then that's what Starvaders is going on.
And this is one where like, don't get too scared off by the deck building of it. Like, if you like tactics games, this is essentially a tactics game where you will just get a ton of different tactics, and which ones you'll be able to use on any given turn is random as to which ones come up. But like, it's a really cool system and really fun. Another like interesting wrinkle on those kind of games is that each card has a certain amount of heat that it creates, and so like that's essentially your cost for playing cards. You can play like 3 heat worth of cards or whatever, but once you've hit that maximum, you can always play one more card, which like causes overheating. And so you'll do that card, but then that card gets burned for the rest of the encounter, and basically just means when it comes back up, you can't use it anymore. And that creates like a really interesting dynamic that I haven't seen in many deck builders, where it's like, how many of these cards, is it worth it to do this extra thing to take out these 3 enemies, even though I'm going to now have that burn card for the rest? And it's only for this encounter, so it's not that big of a deal. And so it's like, you're constantly pushing like, how many cards can I burn through? Or am I going to get to the point in this match where all these enemies are encroaching on me, and then I'm just going to be drawing cards that I can't use? And that's like a fun little wrinkle. And they have like several interesting mechanisms that are unique to this one.
Yeah.
It feels like every deck builder now, because it's like such a known trope, is like, in this one you can cheat in this way. Like it does, because that was the Dice-O-Mancer thing, right? It's like you can change any number on the board, where it's like we've all taken like Slay the Spire as like, this is the default, and then it's like, what if you could cheat at Slay the Spire, and then that's the new game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it is overwhelmingly positive on Steam for the reviews, and it's like 1,500 reviews. And it seems like one that's just going to be growing throughout the year as people discover Starvaders more and more. But yeah, shout out to the developers at Pengonauts releasing that thing. I think it's going to be growing quite a bit here. Janet, how was your journey of trying to think back on hidden gems of 2025? What was it like sifting through the piles of stuff you've played?
Yeah, it was just me tabbing over in a backlog and being like, what's in here that I haven't talked about as much on the show? Because, like obviously like me and Leo and maybe other people have, Keep Driving as like I think one of the games that we're running up to try to get more attention on and things. But yeah, for me, this is kind of back to, I guess a debate we had on this, both on and off content of like, what is a year? And is it just the number on the calendar? I personally start my hidden gems of 2025 in 2024 because I'm usually not playing stuff coming out in December because I'm working on finishing what I had already played, doing content, and then waiting for Santa. That's how I spend my December. So yeah, my first hidden gem is LOK Digital for that reason, a game that came out December 11th. But I started getting to when I came back in January and looked at what are some things that released in December that I maybe didn't notice. Yeah,
so LOK Digital is the name of this game on Steam. And it is it a letter game or a number game? You gotta tell me.
It's a tile-based word game, but it's not a word game in what you might traditionally expect. I think when you hear word game, you're thinking of, Scrabble and other, games that pull actual words. These are like a made-up language kind of words, and each word has an ability. Basically, you're trying to fill the grid. So you might have like a word like TLAC, and I think TLAC fills like 2. So you highlight it, and then you drop ink into 2 spaces. So basically what the game ends up evolving into is that you have this grid full of these different letters, and you're trying to select the proper order of what words you invoke to fill that board. Like your goal is to fill the board with ink. It's black and white, and it has like this incredible animation style to it as well. And you kind of have like these little guys hanging out in the overworld. And I think it's just like a really well-constructed but simple puzzle game. Like I don't think you need to like word games to enjoy this. It's very like inoffensive and delightful and easy to get into. It's worth noting too, this is based on apparently like a pen and paper game called LOK. LOK is the name of the acclaimed puzzle book, apparently.
You're not actually making like words, right? Like in the sense of like English words that that's confusing, or
you're getting like an increasing kind of skill set almost of words. So it's like I've played like the first 4 worlds of this now, where it's like you just get like LOK, and every puzzle is just how do you make LOK in these different ways and fill it up. And then you get TLAK, which does something slightly different than LOK, and then you get like TA, and it's a third one. And so it's both remembering all these words that you have, but also it's like you will often have a choice where like you could make TLAK or you could make TA, and the order in which you do those things will then affect like what words you can make next. And so it's like you could actually do the same thing if it was like just like red, green, blue or something. Like they don't have to be letters at all, but it's just kind of like creating patterns, and the patterns can kind of mix. And then when you take something out, then you can go over. It's what I've been struggling with a little, Janet, and I'm curious since you've been playing this for longer, is like, is there a way to do it that's kind of not just trial and error? Because it does seem like when they get hard, I'm just kind of like doing something and I'm like, well, that doesn't work. And then I do something else and I'm like, okay, maybe that works. And then I like go back 2 steps and I'm like, then like it kind of feels like I just get it wrong until I get it right. And I don't know if that's just me not being great at puzzles or if that's kind of what the game is about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, is that not just all puzzle games? I don't know. I think it is. I think what you're saying is true. It is a trial and error game, but I think it's a trial and error game the way like Sudoku can be, or the way Picross can be. Like, I think there is an element of maybe like forward planning that you can have at a quick glance, but I don't think it's like unusual to not be able to solve something, like, especially as they evolve and the grids get bigger and you have more like words, which are kind of like more abilities. I don't think it's probably more unlikely than not that you're going to have to like do it a couple times over. And I think it also has some nice quality of life features with having stuff on the side where it can tell you like all of your words that you have and what their abilities are. There's like, I believe there is just like an undo and a reset. And there's also a hint as well where it can like kind of fill in it's like, okay, here's the first step.
I didn't use that, but yeah, that seems useful.
I'm playing it on mobile. It is on Steam. And I first started it on Steam, but then like shortly after the Steam release, they're like, it's coming like mobile. And I'm like, at least on iOS, I forget if it's on Android too. And I was like, give me it on mobile, because I think it's such a good like tablet or phone game.
It has
it's cool on Steam too, but
because you can like when you're playing it on your phone, you can like just drag your finger to make the words, and you don't have to like click things. And also to second what you said, like the feeling of the game is really good, and even though it has nothing to do with sound, like I don't want to play it without sound, because just the little noises of like completing the words is the kind of the whole sasatisfaction.
Yep, totally get it.
Is it free to play? I'm like downloading it now, but it doesn't have
no.
to
It's maybe free to start.
It's like the first 3 worlds are free or something,
it is
which
premium,
is
right? Like I can just buy this thing. Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like $6, and it's honestly it's a good demo, because like if you don't like those first 3 worlds, like I think you'll get a sense of whether you like it or not within the free version.
Yeah, LOK Digital, LOK Digital. Janet, I was also delighted that you called out Spilled, which is a game that came out earlier this year that also is like sitting at overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, and like I played through it in an hour, had a great time. But I forgot to like carve out time on the podcast to talk about it. So it totally is in this camp of like, yeah, Spilled was great this year. It's just not going to be a juggernaut. We're talking about the greatest games of the year. But the basic idea is you're a little boat and you're cleaning up a bunch of slime and garbage and gunk in the water. But hold on to your butts, everybody, because this little boat, you can buy upgrades for it, and then you can clean up more slime, and you can move faster, and that's the loop, baby. And by God, if it doesn't feel great to just accomplish this little mission.
Yeah, and then just like a fun fact, this isn't obviously go into like your enjoyment of the game, but I think it's cool. The developer, Lente, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing their name right.
Yeah.
They worked on this game, like this is on the bottom of the Steam page. They said, I paused school and bought my own small boat to live on, which lowered my cost of living and allowed me to fully focus on Spilled for a while.
Gosh.
So yeah, I didn't realize this was up your alley, Ben. I wasn't sure if you were into like kind of clean up choresy games.
I'm kind of normally like a litterish kind of guy, like I like spilling oil into water.
But you
so
do like digging that hole. So I guess this is kind of in the same vein,
yes, it totally is. Somehow if digging a game about digging a hole was too much commitment for you, Spilled should be right up your alley, I think.
Yeah,
I also played and beat this one.
Oh, nice.
Just like yesterday. And it is, it's like one sitting, and I had a smile on my face the whole time.
That's the goal of games, I think. Yeah. And so it's like $6 on Steam. Yeah. Shout out to Lente, the developer of Spilled there. It's a cool little experience.
There's a lot of chores and cleanup games that exist, and I've played a lot of them, and they're not all like this good. And I think I just want to like mark some of the things that make it sort of stand out in a pretty like saturated market. I think it does a great job getting a lot out of what its core mechanics are, which you're just walking around, you're just going around on the boat, going over oil spills, and then they're gone. But they also have like these teeny tiny side quests of like, this person wants the beach ball, and you like go get it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it's overextending. There's nothing I hate more in this genre space than a game that I can feel as a player that it's insecure about how much of a game it is, how mechanically dense it is. And I'm like, it's so much more than just, executing on the idea. I think it's the way and the little grace notes that really make, I think, Spilled sing.
Yeah. And the pixel art is fantastic in there as well.
Yeah.
Jeff, there's one that I want to talk about with you, that asterisk on this one is the developer has been a supporter of ours for a long time, including having an image on the Wall of Heroes, our rotating slideshow on every MinnMax video, for a very long time. It's very much appreciated. But Trampoline Tales is the name of the developer, and they released a game years ago called Luck Be a Landlord, which has a fun journey where it was one of the main points of inspiration for the developer of Balatro. He's like, I was playing Luck Be a Landlord and said I wanted to make a game like that.
All the games that we now refer to as Balatro likes should be Luck Be a Landlord likes.
Right.
Is essentially where it comes from. I ended up getting really into Luck Be a Landlord like a couple months ago. I finally downloaded the mobile version of it. And at first it seemed really simple and kind of basic. And then I played like 40 more hours of it on my phone and realized, no, this is the genesis of all these games, and it has that kind of fun like build out an engine. I'm going to say that all day, and I apologize now because those are all the games that I like now. But yes, and so his follow up to that is Maze Mice.
Yeah.
Which I guess you would best describe it as a roguelike version of Pac-Man. A lot of my games, I guess I'm playing like very old arcade games that have been turned into roguelikes.
Yes.
This month.
Another way of phrasing, just taking old game ideas and then making them extra sticky and compelling, because I looked at Maze Mice and I'm like, I don't really get what's going on from the trailer here. My main point of reference for it, other than it being on the Wall of Heroes, was like when Giant Bomb was exploding, I thought it was a bold move where like Jeff Gerstmann did not post anything about it on Blue Sky. He just posted a gameplay video of him playing Maze Mice. He's like, hey, check this out. I was like, good job for Maze Mice. Like, of all the people in this moment to have their, social posts filled up by a game, it's Jeff Gerstmann in this moment when everyone's looking to him for what he thinks about Giant Bomb. But I jumped in and played it today, and it is really damn cool. Now, here's my pitch, Jeffem. You tell me where I'm off or where I'm spot on and a genius for this. It's
Sure.
Pac-Man Championship DX meets Super Hot meets Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, and if people
Jeffem
are
looks
familiar
sick.
with
You're not
all
watching the
three of
video
those,
version.
otherwise you're just saying gibberish. But yes, it's like
This whole episode has been people saying gibberish.
Yeah, it's a big gibberish
LOK
episode.
Digital? I mean, come on.
You are moving around a little mouse. You're getting chased by cats in the Pac-Man like kind of maze, but the mice only move when the cats only move when you're moving the mouse.
Right.
So it's like an action game.
That's a super vampire.
But
okay.
you can stop and you can think about what you're doing anytime that you want. And like you're constantly leveling up, and every time you level up, you'll get a new power, like your Vampire Survivors analogy. And those, they'll shoot out lasers that will hit the cats, or you'll drop fire behind you and those will injure the cats. You're really just trying to kill cats in as many different ways as you can as they're trying to eat you. And then you're picking up, power-ups that will help level you up and stuff like that. And so it was instantly, I was also very confused when I saw trailers and things for it. And then it's like, oh, great. I love that I am playing, I can go as fast as I want, at which point it just feels kind of like you're playing Pac-Man.
Right.
But then I can stop and I can like actually think about where I'm going to go and, like what's going to be best for the power-ups that I've gotten and things like that.
Yeah. Janet, with your love of Miss Pac-Man, I think you might like Maze Mice. I think I might do it for you. It's got enough of that DNA in there.
It's funny because, Jeff, I'm hearing you talk about all these different games that I am also what is it? No. Deck, no. And then hearing you talk about it, I'm like, maybe I misjudged. And I had the same thing, Ben, because I looked up everyone's games and I was like looking at Jeffem's games and I'm like, this is the same game 3 times. And then also I was like, the trailer also, it just didn't communicate so little. And I am, frankly, I am really petty with these trailers. Like I'll go quick.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't see what's happening. I'm confused. And then I just left. So yeah, maybe, you know what? The wish list doesn't cost me nothing. I'll throw it on the pile because maybe that is something that's more up my alley than I expected it to be.
I think it is. Yeah. Maze Mice is the name of that one. From mice to face, as they say. Jacob, Faceminer might be the weirdest game in this entire batch. It's Windows 95? What the hell's going on here?
I suggested 2 games for this, and I was like, look, we're making fun of Jeffem for being on his bullshit, but this is like me on the most Jacob Geller bullshit. Where Faceminer is a clicker game where you are working in some dystopian tech company where your job is simply to click on faces, and you're getting these like data packs, and it's just it's just faces, and you kind of keep thinking like, am I supposed to like do something more? Am I supposed to be like finding things? And it's like, no, you just click on faces and it'll be like a 9 grid, and like 7 of them will be faces and 2 of them will be like static or like a picture of a fire extinguisher or something. And you just do that. And then you, like all clicker games, you're kind of buying things to automate it for you, where you buy things that click on the faces in addition to you. And then eventually you're, the faces are going by too fast for you to click, but you're buying like computer upgrades to do it faster. But like the real pull of this is the aesthetic context of it, because it's just insane, where it's like it kind of a Windows XP looking desktop is what you're looking at, that has a bunch of different windows open, and one of them is the face clicker, and then one of them is like your computer stats or whatever. But then there's like a music little bubble that's open, and that's where the music in the game comes from, and it's always playing this kind of like early
the best music of all time,
breakcore. Yeah, it's really just like, it's music to like zone out and click faces to. And then
we all know that genre. We're all familiar with that genre.
The weirdest part, and it's like this is where the real money is the kind of story of the game is communicated through emails that you're getting. And you're like, well, I don't want to stop clicking on faces to read the emails. Of course. But you don't have to, because every time you get an email, it just automatically starts reading it out loud in a little speech to text voice. And all of these things are happening at once. So you're clicking on faces and it's playing breakcore, and then it's just like, from Face Click Organization, did you know that clicking faces increases your happiness by 20%? And they're just like, it's all happening on top of each other. And it's really weird and cool. And Janet, I'm very curious how you got on with it.
Yeah, I sat down and I was like, okay, we're hitting all these games, like 15 minutes a pop. I'm going to have like 3 sentences to share at the end of this for my night of work. And I got to this one and I set the 15-minute timer, same deal. I'm like, cool. I will say I didn't set it up for the best success because I did play on Steam Deck where things are tiny. So it is definitely better on OC. But you have to zoom in, and you can do it. It's just like not as easy, or whatever. This one, the timer went off, and I kept clicking. I gotta be honest. This thing grabbed me by the wrist. I am so glad they made that decision to do the read aloud from the emails. And frankly, I hope every game in this sort of like, whether it's like a clicker or a point and click story game, steals that, because I don't like reading a bunch of notes, even in a game where it's really well constructed, even when that's the whole game. It's especially I think a game like this where you have a task and then you have like the emails or the documents as like ancillary information that kind of helps fill the lore. Like being able to do that all simultaneously was super nice. So I really liked that part. And I also liked how it served as like a layer of tutorialization. I thought that was super effective, because when I started playing it, I was just clicking on the faces. And then when the emails popped up and they're like, oh, the music will help you focus, like click on your music player. And I was like, yeah. Then I was like, oh, this is like great work music. And I was like, and then once I got everything automated, I was like, then doing 9 things. And I'm like, okay, let me go on Slack and thumbs up these questions for the pod. I didn't end up finishing it. I'm not sure how long it would take, because I was leaning a little bit more into at first I was doing it all manual, and then I started leaning into the automation. So, but it's not that long of a game.
I will say it is surprisingly long, actually. I finished it because I love, like, this is it's another clicker game about capitalism, very much in the, like, Universal Paperclips lane, which is a game that I really love. And it's like, you gotta play for a long time. Eventually...
How long is it?
I won't actually spoil what you have to do to finish the game, but like it becomes, you completely stop clicking on faces at some point. It's going by way faster than you could ever comprehend, but it's like your computer, like you need to upgrade your CPU to be able to run all the automated clickers, and then you need to upgrade your computing, and then, or like your cooling, so the computer stays cool, and eventually you're buying like cloud computing shares and other things. But the really weird thing, and this is kind of revealed once you beat the game, but I think that people should know, is like when you beat the game, you get the ability to write an email that I assume is being broadcast to other people's games.
Ooh,
so
yes.
Some of the emails that you're reading, because it's like some of them are from like Face Clicker Corporation, but some of them are from like another person working at the Face Clicker company.
So it's a Strand game.
Yeah, it is. And you're hearing things and it's all read by the same text-to-speech voice, but like some of them are from other players.
Cool.
And I don't know if they're like hand-picking them, but they all like, I never got one that I was like, why is that in here? Like they were all like felt within the logic of the thing. And it's just this, it's a really weird aesthetic experience.
That's cool.
Yeah, I liked the little stories from people were fun of the sort of like, there was one where it's like, hey, like, is anyone else like a Faceminer out and like in this city? Like, we're doing a meetup if anyone wants to come through. It's like really lonely doing this job, and then other people that had it as like a side gig and things. Like, I thought it was like surprisingly solid, and I think the sound design is really good. Which again, like those things, I mean, they matter in every game, but especially a game like this where so much of it is, do you feel like, can you almost put yourself in the role of this character that you're like positioned as the protagonist? And it's like, yeah, when I was clicking, you got that good sound. And I was like, this is a job well done. And then I'm like, I'm getting kind of tired. And the game's like, are you getting tired? I'm like, I am getting tired. Like, I just, it has a nice, like, immersive layer to it that I think, isn't easy to pull off. So yeah, I'd like to continue playing it and see it through. I'm a little scared that you said it's longer than I expected. So I'm not sure.
It's not like Xenoblade.
How long it beats like 2 hours, but I don't know what.
That's not true. I mean,
okay. That website's always lying. That website's always lying. So
it was 3.5 for me. And maybe you could optimize it better, or you could kind of have it running in the background. But like, I actually found you had to be pretty active, unlike something like Cookie Clicker, where I was like, I was kind of messing with all my little systems pretty actively.
Gotcha.
Does it end up being kind of more than what it is in that first hour, like narratively? Is there like narrative juice that you're like, oh yeah, you should see it through because you're going to get these really intriguing bits that are beyond what you've already gotten?
Yes.
Or is it more of the same?
No, it becomes incredibly on the nose, but a very interesting thing that it does not initially appear to be. And like the ending is fun, and the way that you reach the ending is entertaining to get to.
Right on.
Okay, cool.
There's a game that Devolver just released, and I'd imagine based on the name alone, people are like, what is this? I don't think I want to play this. Moving on. But I might point you back. It is surprisingly fun. There's a game called Shotgun Cop Man. Have you seen this one? Yeah, going around. Where it's from the developer who made My Friend Pedro from a couple years back, which was the Max Payne meets a banana game, if you recall that whole thing. But Shotgun Cop Man, I was playing this morning, and I was like, uh-oh. I think Jacob Geller would really like this game. If you ever gave it a whirl, Jacob, where you're using your guns to propel yourself off the ground. That's your jump, kind of jetpack joyride style as you're propelling around.
Cave story.
Yep.
Cave story style.
Cave story style, exactly. It's perfect on a Steam Deck for just a little action game. It feels like a fantastic Flash game, which I know you have a soft spot in your heart for.
Sure.
And then the most compelling part is right out of the gate, like text on the screen. Mission number 1 is go to hell and arrest Satan. Like, all right, I am interested, Shotgun Cop Man. So it's one of those just like super twitchy, fun, simple action with harder and harder levels. And it's like, all right, this is going to be a staple on my Steam Deck for a while as I blast through this entire thing. But Shotgun Cop Man, don't look past it, everybody. It's Devolver. They know how to pick them, you know?
Yeah.
Jacob, I didn't hear you say, ooh, ah, I'm so in.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the gameplay. It looks very ooh, ah. It looks, yes, it does look very
There's
Flash
a difference
gamey.
between something looking ooh, ah and actually having an ooh, ah reaction. Those are two different things.
Well, I'll see if I ooh and ah when I ask Ben for a code for this after the podcast.
Okay, all right, that seems fair. That's a fair trade. Jeff, what the heck is this? You said there's a game called Starless Abyss, and I said, my dead body.
Yeah, it's, in addition to being another game with star in the title, it is also another deck building roguelike game where you're fighting things in space. I know.
Stop.
I'm sorry, guys. Janet, you said you've been won over by a couple of my description of games. This is not going to be one of them because this is it's kind of like
Gotcha.
it's kind of like Starvaders. Yes, it's kind of like Starvaders, but it's kind of like the more complicated, darker version of it, where it's like it's very tactics heavy. You're now like you're on a big hex grid with a bunch of different enemies that pop up, and you're controlling 3 spaceships that you're moving around. So there's a much heavier focus on figuring out your positioning because you need line of sight for your different attacks and things. And then like you only have 1 deck of cards, but you're deciding which of each ship is going to use which cards because basically also in this game when you do attacks it causes heat which you have to like manage as a thing. But so you're like spreading it out.
Game though.
Yeah, it is. But you're spreading out against your different ships. What's also interesting about this one though, and is a good selling point, is that like the music's awesome and it has like great pixel art and it has this really weird theme of like basically in our pursuit of technology we've ripped holes in space and now unreality is coming through. It's all very eldritch coded and it's like scientists in this future just started teaming up with the occult and like like eldritch like cult worshippers and they created this team to go out and kill these elder gods that are coming through. And so like all the enemies are these grotesque weird enemy like floating eyeballs and things, and it's all super well animated pixel animation and great soundtrack, and while you're trying to figure out like a much deeper kind of combat strategy, little FTL-ish, but it's still turn-based kind of. So if you like more grandiose kind of strategy games, this is an interesting twist on that genre as well.
Starless Abyss, and check the description if you want a name for all these games. Check that out.
On the topic of doing things in spaceships, can I just say, this isn't on our docket to talk about, but I beat Skin Deep this weekend, and like, it's not a Leo Vader game. I mean, it is, but like, it can also be a you game. Sometimes I get kind of scared by how deep Leo goes into games, and I'm like, well, I'm too dumb to do that. Yeah. But like, Skin Deep, it rules.
Yeah, you're rescuing cats on spaceships, immersive sim.
Yeah.
That's
all. I just wanted to say, it's like, it can be a you game too.
I still don't believe you.
Yeah, that seems like nonsense. On the Leo front, by the way, I asked him like other games he wants to make sure I get a shout out on this episode. And yeah, he mentioned Keep Driving, which you're referencing, Janet. And then he was screaming again about Promise Mascot Agency. Like, don't overlook that game. It's very good. Yeah, I started it, but it was like, a little bit too much reading when I was on my exercise bike. But I got to go back to it at some point here.
I started that. I want to get back to it. I really like what I played. It kind of has like, which Leo sold at the time, but it has kind of like a GTA 3 kind of like mechanical vibe sometimes, or it feels like I'm playing like a PS2 open.
You're driving
game.
around, yeah.
Right.
It feels like if a Yakuza side quest, because it has to do with the Yakuza, so that makes sense. If a Yakuza side quest was a whole game,
yeah, I like it.
Kind of energy, which is pretty fun.
What Jacob? What is Moves of the Diamond Hand?
Okay, so get ready for some more Jacob BS.
I'm scared.
There's this indie developer named Cosmo D who I've been a fan of for several years now, who is maybe best known for like this game called the Norwood Suite or something, but they're all very like the best known thing you probably still haven't heard of. But Cosmo D has this incredibly distinctive audio style because he does all his own music and it all rules. It's this kind of like new jazz, and then visual style, which I would kind of just describe as like Asset Clash the aesthetic, where it's like everything is a very like weird and mismatched, and kind of the scale of everything is something off. It almost looks like, like the weirdest illustrated kids book you had, like it reminds me of like kids books that I would read, and it would kind of make me nervous because I didn't quite understand the illustrations.
I'm sure we're all silently watching the trailer together, right? Like we're all like it kind of is Killer 7 a fair comparison, Jacob? It kind of just like
a little bit. I think Killer 7 is more like aesthetically cohesive. This is a real like lots of different things, but yes, it is that level of weirdness. And so Moves of the Diamond Hand is the first. I think it's episodic, and right now there's a demo out, but that demo is just like episode 1 of the game, and it's this kind of. It's basically like a dice rolling game or like a tabletop RPG where there are just a bunch of people and stuff around and you just go and talk to them and do skill checks. But the main mechanic is you can upload or you can upgrade the sides of your dice to just like make your rolls better. And you have 6 different skills that you can do this with, but the skills are all wacky, or at least a lot of them are. So there's like deception or wisdom that are normal things, but there's also like cooking or music or humor, and the situations have a lot of different ways of getting past them. And so you can just be like, my guy is going to be a funny cook, and then you just upgrade those, and then you get past everything by like nature of your culinary skill. Not
even joking, this is what I tried to do in Starfield. It did not work, so I think I need to go play this game.
Yeah, and it's like, the gameplay itself is just kind of rolling dice against other people's dice. But it has nice things like you can actually re-roll up to 3 times, and so you're really able to kind of shake the odds, towards your own ends. But again, kind of like Faceminer, it's just a game that you play for the aesthetic experience, and like you're walking through and there's like, this giant pigeon walking around, and then you have to like have a conversation with the pigeon, and if you do that, you can get the item below it, and there's like a whole mayoral race going on, and you're learning about the different mayors that are running, and one of them is like a clone, and then there's another clone that's like, well, I am programmed to speak positively about the mayor, but also as a clone I do support him. And it's just like, I don't know, I think it's worth people trying out because it's free, first of all, and like if you click with this guy's aesthetic, there's kind of nothing else that scratches the itch. Right. And then you can go back and he has like 4 or 5 other games that you can play that are exploring the same aesthetic, but also they are interconnected like textually, where like you'll hear people reference things that happened in other games. And so having been with this developer for like 6 years now, I'm like, I'm getting like Stephen King connections where I'm like, oh, they referenced dairy. I know what that means. It's just kind of like I'm seeing how things are
You're one of the real
connected.
fans.
That's right, man. Moves of the Diamond Hand is the name of that game. Dawnfolk is another one that the community was championing and screaming. And Janet and Jeffem, you played Dawnfolk?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it a deck builder? What are we working with Dawnfolk?
No, it's not a deck builder.
Okay, thank God.
It's a city builder. But
right.
before you leave,
no, I'm interested.
I also feel that way about city builders. I mean, I think everyone has, we all have genres we like and ones that we maybe kind of avoid because we don't like them as much or we're not as good at them. For me, city builder is kind of in that, I don't know, that kind of realm. Even though I like decorating, but I don't like the strategy of building oftentimes. I think this super simplifies it because you're kind of just building out things as little tiles. You also have like a really useful tutorial onboarding through this little like flame guy who honestly looks just like Calcifer. Like this is Calcifer, basically legally distinct Calcifer. Maybe not that legally distinct. I don't know.
Hang on, help me out. Who's Calcifer?
Like Studio Ghibli. Yeah, Calcifer.
Howl's Moving Castle. Billy Crystal.
Nope, sorry.
Yeah,
Calcifer is not in my. Yep, no, not in my rotation. I'm sorry. Forgive me.
Well, add that. Okay, so you have 2 things to do now. You gotta do that, and you gotta play Dawnfolk.
Your kid at home, huh? I guess he's not there yet.
Books.
Like
Weird.
The scary books Jacob was talking about.
You're not reading him Howl's Moving Castle, Ben? Come on, Calcifer's
I'm sorry, Calcifer. He's my main man. I love Calcifer.
Yeah, reading cursed children's books that Jacob was referring to that are like, it's something about this feels unsettling to look at. But yeah, and it also has like some light mini games and like you can like hunt and then do like a little tiny mini game that kind of reminds me of like an Oregon Trail structure. And it has like this fun layer of your sort of uncovering the darkness. So there's like mechanics you can use to like reveal a space, and then you can then put things on that space. And there are similar to like I think most city builders, there were kind of random events that could happen. Like and it also has like a bit of a dark edge to it. Like one thing that happened in my early playthrough was some type of like monolith or structure appeared that like was like a dark structure, and then I let it be there for too long, and they're like the game's like people in the town have started worshiping the darkness because you didn't destroy this.
Hell yeah.
So it kind of gave me a little bit of that like the kind of fun, the goofy dark fun I had with like Cult of the Lamb. I felt a little bit in this, but yeah, Jeff, you said you also had a chance to check it out.
Yeah, this was the last game I played last night, and just played it way too long and got no sleep because of it. It is a really, really interesting take on city builders, because it is all just like a big tile grid that you're exploring, and you're expanding out one space after another, and you have like 4 different resources, I think 4 or 5 different resources, but the game does a really good job of communicating to you those resources, because it just lists how many you have of each one, and then above that it will tell you the number of like either you're making plus this many each turn or you're losing them, and so you don't really have to be that in the weeds. You at any time you can just look up and be like, I'm making food the least out of these things, so I'm going to plant another farm because that's what I need right now. And then you can upgrade different tiles as well, and it seems like they have a ton of different modes that you can play. The thing that got me last night was I unlocked the puzzle mode, and it gives you, there's like a daily challenge for puzzles, and it gave me a much smaller grid. It was like 5x5, and then they just wanted you to make, like have it so that you're making 15 light every turn, and you basically had pretty much unlimited resources. And so like I put out a couple churches and things, and then I got the 15 light, and then it was like, okay, now do 25 for a silver medal, and that was a little harder how I packed things. And then the gold medal was 30 light, and I must have played for like an hour and a half. Like it so got under my skin because I'd get to like 28 light, and it's like, well, now what the hell do I do? How do I squeak out 2 more? I guess I can demolish all these churches, and I can rebuild them in like a checkerboard pattern. So there's 10, there's houses next to every church, because each 10 or each house will give that church an extra light. And like I puzzled on that for so long until I finally figured it out, and like got to go to bed at 5 a.m. But it's just like a really interesting, like it is as much a puzzle game as it is a city building game, and that's what really drew. I'm not the hugest city building fan either, but it's very much like spatial puzzle. Figure out how you're going to configure these things so that your farm is next to your fields, and the church is next to the tents, and like all those kind of things, and that's really satisfying.
Yeah.
You pointing out that placement plays a big role is like definitely a key component to the game as well, like you mentioned, where it's like, okay, well, if you put your fields in this order, they're like getting the maximum amount that they like can get. There's also just like fun things that can happen, like on top of my weird like the darkness was being worshipped story. There's also things like you sent people out to fish, one hasn't come back yet. What do? Do you go get him? I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go get him, and they're like, hey, so like where he was, like there's some like really good resources, but like he's kind of sick and needs to go home. Like, what do? Do you get the resources or you take him back? I'm like, we're gonna get the resources. And they're like, he died. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a bad person. So I really like those kinds of little things. Again, that's kind of the, and many games do this, but Oregon Trail was one of the early ones of those that I played as a kid that I kind of attribute. Some of those just like quick narrative bits that you get that, it's not necessarily driving like a whole story. There's a campaign as well, which for me, I'm a credit sicko. I don't really like playing games just for fun. I like playing them for completion and saying, look, I was a good lad, and the game gave me a pat in the head in the form of showing me who made the game. So it has that if you want that. But Jeff, it was cool that you got to check out those other modes, because I've just only been working through the campaign so far. Yeah.
I just jumped into the puzzle one, and it seemed like there were a bunch of other weird, like it seems like once they created the basic system, they were like, okay, how many different ways can we play with it? If we give you this configuration, like, can you figure out how to do this? And it looks like there's a bunch of extra content there, as well as like sandbox mode and all kinds of things that you can keep playing forever. So
Right on.
I'm super enamored by that one too.
Dawnfolk is the name of that one. I'm sure we've missed, I don't know, probably 3,000 games that have been great this year that aren't getting the love they deserve. So leave a comment on YouTube, or you can send it to us on Blue Sky, wherever you want, with your pick for an underrated game from 2025 here. And
Remember, December counts.
apparently, news to me, but the Discord rounded up some of their favorites as
Still
well.
haven't played Indiana Jones.
That's
so
exactly
you know
what I was hinting at. Yes.
Guess what?
Yeah, but it's
the game
definitely
doesn't
winning
exist
game of the
anymore.
year for us in 2025.
It's only right. It's only fair. But the community also had a ton more picks of games that they want to celebrate. That's going to be the subject of an upcoming episode of Bonus Pod, our Patreon exclusive podcast with Haley, as we'll run through all those games to celebrate picks from the community as well, to do our best to try and cover this gosh darn industry. Kyle, when we think about doing our best, you think about preparing a 9-course meal. Think about like your Easter, Kyle, where you're in the kitchen for days and days, getting ready to make sure everyone's well fed and happy and smiley, right?
Yeah, you got to make the food well in advance, apparently, so you have to remake it on the day.
That's it. You got to make it 1,000 times. But this is the thing, Kyle. Imagine, let me paint this scenario. You at your next Easter feast, and you say, "Hey, everybody, I just woke up. I know it's 4 in the afternoon, but I just woke up and I'm in my PJs and I don't care," because roll with me in this role-playing scenario, and you're like, "Hey, I don't even care because look at me. I'm going to put all of our meals in the microwave for 2 minutes and they're going to be better than anything I could cook for days in the kitchen. Thanks to Factor Meals, Kyle."
Oh, that's all right.
There we
It's a
go.
long walk.
For
It
very
was.
little pay. Factor Meals, everybody. Amazing meals ready for you in 2 minutes. You pop it in your microwave, then you say yum yum, and you eat them up. They say you can make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat it up and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you want. Like egg hunts, Kyle. Eating candy at Easter, all your other favorite activities instead of that Easter feast.
So this is primarily an Easter-based service? Is that
I was
right?
just thinking this is a weirdly religious undertone to this, or overtone, I guess.
That's right. Roll that boulder out of the way and sprint to a Factor meal, everybody. You can get outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors. They have 45 weekly menu options. You can get started at factormeals.com/MinnMax50off. Use code MinnMax50off to get 50% off free shipping on your first box. That's code MinnMax50off at factormeals.com/MinnMax50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Have easy meals ready to go in your fridge, just in case you need it. That's what Factor Meals is all about. They're ready to help. Deliveries, folks. Can't live with them, can't live without them. But what if Konami published a game about them? There's a new game.
This one's not a sponsor.
That's right. This one's called Deliver at All Costs. You know, we referenced GTA 3 earlier for Promise Mascot Agency. Imagine like a really good-looking version of kind of a GTA 2. And that's kind of the vibe we're going with Deliver at All Costs, where it's an isometric game. But the big hook, I'd say, is destructibility, which we're all suckers for on this call. Every gamer out there loves full destructibility. And so you are plowing through buildings, running through so many things. You're trying to make these hot deliveries. A lot of us checked out Deliver at All Costs. Jeff, I'm most curious maybe about you because you played the most of this game here.
Yeah, I'm probably like 12 or 15 hours into it. It is such a weird mishmash of things that don't completely go together well, but like it has kept me thinking about it for a long time. The core gameplay, yes, is just drive cars around and smash through buildings and have wacky hijinks. And really built around that to the point where you get upgrades for your cars and it's like 3/4 of them just seem like have no other purpose other than being stupid and fun. Like the first one I got was hydraulics for my doors, where now if I press a button, the doors flip open and the hood flips up. And like, there's no use for that other than driving up next to pedestrians and flipping it out so that you hit them and they go flying across the screen. Like that's just the only reason that exists. And like you can get airbags on the outside of your car that will like inflate, and it's just like dumb, destructive, and physics-based, fun stuff. But then like the story, like they put so much more effort into the story than is warranted, or like that most people probably want. And like the character, like it's actually a very serious story when it means to be. Like sometimes it's goofy and it's like, oh, there's a commercial for constipation. Of course there is. And then, but like most of the core story is that like you are some kind of genius engineering savant who's fallen on hard times. Now you're working at this delivery company because an old man was generous enough to hire you. His son's kind of the asshole who's like the big businessman. But like the rest of the story is that the company's not doing well and like has to lay off a bunch of people, and like the work conditions just keep getting worse and worse, and like you really don't want your best friend to get fired, and so you're doing missions to sabotage other companies, which is when it gets super goofy again, but you're doing it so that your best friend doesn't get fired. And it's like, and then there's stuff like you'll get a flashback about your character, and it turns out there's like this horrible family abuse in his background. But all the characters look like maybe Hitman 1 level character models. like your main character looks like Carl the Jedi from Jedi Survivor if he got turned into like a cursed ventriloquist doll, is like the best. and so it's just like such a weird mix. I will go out and I'll do a bunch of crazy stuff, and I'll like drive through entire buildings until they fall to the ground.
Right.
And then like learn all this weird stuff about the characters that you're like, oh no, terrible. Like how's he going to feed his family when this is all? And it's just like, and your character has this dark past that like the son who runs the company is determined to find out. I don't know what to think about it. I enjoy the wacky gameplay, and everything else. Like, I guess I will remember the characters more than I would if this was just, it's like if Sega made Crazy Taxi again, but was like, let's make this like the main character the most complicated person with this very intricate backstory, and like really
explain
think about
why his hair is green finally.
Naughty Dog's Crazy Taxi.
It's just like, what are you doing? And then I don't want any spoilers. I thought I was getting towards the end of the game, and there was this big, very exciting mission. And then like a bunch of things changed, and it completely blew out. Like the game is way bigger than I thought it was going to be. And you go to different places, and like there's much more to this game, gameplay wise and content wise than I thought there was going to be. And it's just like,
even the fact that you said you had played for 12 hours, like me having played for 30 minutes, am shocked to learn that the game is 12 hours long. And apparently it's much longer than that.
Yeah. I mean, and caveat that anytime you put me in an open world game, I don't focus enough on what I'm supposed to, like there are crates and different things that you can like run around and find. And also I just like, there's no fall damage in the game. Like if you climb up onto a building and you jump off, your character just ragdolls when they hit the ground, and then you just get up after a second and like keep on running. And I spent hours in the original Red Dead just like going around and pushing people off of, like saloon balconies and stuff, because I like the physics of it and stuff. Your two abilities in this game when you're on foot is you have a button to kick stuff, which is really just like kick garbage cans and stuff and they go flying over. And then you have a shove button to just shove people. And like the tutorial tells you like, hey, if you ever get stuck somewhere because there's an NPC, you can push them out of the way. That has never happened to me in this game. I don't even know when that would happen, but like I've shoved 1,000 people in front of cars when I'm running around.
Oh my God.
It's just like, it's like stupid. It's stupid, like, open world physics-based mayhem, but also like they really want you to care about that story and the character.
Is it working?
Not in the way that I think they want it to.
Said everything.
Like I have just been like staring at the cutscenes thinking like, what the hell is going on and why did they do this? So in a way it's very interesting, but like not in the way that I think they were intending.
Deliver at all costs. Yeah, Far Out Games is the developer there.
I started playing it, and I have not given this game a fair shake, but it was like the opposite of those, like, the Sakurai Explains, like, get to what the player wants to be doing, where, like, the opening minutes of the game, you're just, like, walking back and forth in an apartment while a guy talks to himself, and I'm like, isn't this a game about, like, driving into buildings and knocking it? Like, the amount of dialogue versus driving you do in the opening 20 minutes is so incredibly weighted on this story that I haven't been convinced to care about.
Yeah,
it's baffling. And then also, and I'm curious if you get used to this, like, I kind of assumed it was going to be a crazy taxi style city that you're driving around, but actually it's subdivided into a lot of small regions, which is probably necessary for, like, the destruction to work. Yeah. But, like, it meant I was, like, hitting loading screens every like 20 seconds driving through the city, which also was not what I wanted to be doing.
There are, like, 6 zones or whatever that you go through, and they like that has to be a technological concession, and like they did not seem to take that into account for a lot of the missions, where it's because it's like a lot of you'll finish a mission, they'll be like, okay, go back to the headquarters, and it's like, that's 3 zones away. I'm gonna have 2 loading screens on the way, and on PS5 it's not that long, but it's like you're still sitting there, for a couple seconds while you're waiting for your car has gone through one tunnel and you're waiting for it to come out the other one. That certainly is weird, and it is certainly not a crazy taxi style game where it's like, I think everyone sees the trailer and thinks, okay, I'm a delivery guy. I'm just going to, I'm going to take something here, and then I'm going to get another thing, and I'm just going to go here, and, like, it's going to be more of an arcadey thing. That is super not what's happening here.
Gotcha.
And it is very weird. It was a weird decision to put that much emphasis on story and the characters when most people probably just want to unlock the goofy upgrades and, like, put a rocket on your truck and fly it through buildings. And
Kyle, do you know who published that game?
Yeah, Konami. Which is odd. Like, there's nothing about. I mean, I guess I don't know what a Konami game is in 2025. Ultimately, Silent Hill 2 remake, yes, and a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. But I never would have guessed it was Konami. Like if you had put it in front of me.
It is funny. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but they have, like, Konami's still releasing games. Like, they are making some interesting choices for smaller games that they've been pumping out recently. So it's another one in their belt there. So Konami, just like the greatest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games of yore in the arcade, right? Which brings us, of course, to the new game from Strange Scaffold, one of Jacob's favorite developers. This is TMNT, Tactical Takedown. Big excitement. It's, hey, the developers of I Am Your Beast, and I don't know, what's your favorite Strange Scaffold game, Jacob?
I don't know. You always introduce Strange Scaffold as Jacob's favorite developer in a way that I guess I've played a lot of their games.
Yeah, I was literally thinking that too. I'm like, didn't Jacob, like, 32 episodes ago say, you always do this, but I never said this. And I was like, maybe I hallucinated that, because Jacob
I did
anything.
Really like,
and then right now
you're
like, wait.
Okay, yeah. See, he loved I'm Your Beast. He is obsessed with it. He won't stop slacking me about it. Actually. Yeah, he's got like a whole like decal system on his car in real life in honor of I Am Your Beast. He's kind of weirdly obsessed with it.
One of the songs from I Am Your Beast is on my workout playlist. So I do listen
all right.
to it.
You're a fan.
Probably once a week.
Sit down. You're a fan. But then also creepy redneck dinosaur mansion that they just released this year as well. But this is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that is a tactics game. And we're still early in this whole thing. Janet, are you digging it so far?
Yeah, I'm wildly early because, again, that 15-minute timer went off and I went to go mind some faces. But I really liked what I played of it. I felt like I liked the stylish look to it. It has kind of like a comic book feel in the art and the animation. And I think I enjoy stuff that can get more. I mean, it sounds dumb to say like it's a tactics game, so positioning matters, because that's always true. But I guess like early on abilities that lean into that. I think sometimes with like a tactics game, it's a little bit too slow to roll out what you're capable of doing. But, you know, right away, like positioning is very relevant, not just in the moves you can pull off, but also the way they do the levels where like part of the level drops out and then more of it forms. I thought that was super cool and fun, where it's like, okay, get out of the red zone before it like drops out. But you can also sort of use that to your advantage to maybe like leave an enemy behind or like push them off. Like there's nothing better in a game than pushing someone off a ledge. It's like killing someone. That's light work. Pushing them off at full health. That feels really good.
When they have like 5 hearts for health, and it's like, I'm going to kick you and you are going to be gone, and then I'm never going to have to worry about you again.
Yeah, I mean, are you digging it, Jeffem?
I am, yeah. It is an interesting kind of. I love when tactics games like have their own unique feel to them, and this one, in addition to the comic book stuff, like it's very like tabletop coded, where like your characters, it's a little like Hitman Go, where it's like your characters they have like a literal mini base that they're on. And,
they're standees.
And so like you're moving them around. They do like, they still animate, and it's cool that like when you do an attack, like the pose will change and then you'll kind of be frozen in that pose after you do it, or you hit a bad guy and they'll kind of be frozen, you know, after they get hit or whatever. But like in terms of the tactics, it's like you can do a lot in a single turn. You have like 6 action points, and most of your actions only take 1 action point. And it feels a little like Into the Breach, which is another one of my favorite tactics games.
Hang on, that stupid robot pushing game?
Yes, robot pushing game.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah.
That's not one of the best Switch games, right?
That's very definitive, right?
That's the one, yeah. But sounded really, really fun. Like a lot more fun than the other games we put on the list.
But yeah, so like it's like that in that they will hit you with just a ton of enemies, and it's like you have to figure out how to clear this little area of as many enemies as you can, because as soon as the next turn starts, they're going to drop like 5 more enemies on there, and you will just get flooded with guys if you haven't cleared out the last group. But they give you enough tools and enough, you know, different abilities to like mostly take care of most of them. And like I have appreciated that each Ninja Turtle has like completely different skill sets and like some really interesting stuff where it's like, okay, if you do this attack and it defeats someone, you will get the action point back that it cost. And so it's like, okay, so if I whittle them down with this attack first, then this one basically becomes a freebie, and I'm going to end up being able to do like 8 attacks instead of, you know, 6 or whatever. And it's like figuring out how each Ninja Turtle kind of is able to control the battleground is really interesting. And then like Janet said, like I really like the levels end up being pretty big, but you're just playing in small chunks, and then like pieces fall off, new pieces come in, and so you're kind of having to figure out like you're trying to position yourself in places where the enemies that you can't get rid of aren't going to be able to get to you to attack you. But sometimes it's like, well, I am way in the red zone, and I just have to get over there before, you know, like I fall off next turn. And that's really interesting too. I feel to some extent like the Ninja Turtle-iness of it is kind of lacking.
Don't say that
like,
part. Don't say that part.
Really? I kind of like maybe that early feel of it though, where it doesn't. I feel like sometimes, especially with like this like licensed IP, they're like, and this is where we remind you what the IP is. And I feel like I like that it's less in your face, but there's still like those integrations of, oh, these turtles have different person. And I'm not a freaking turtles expert. Okay, I didn't rewatch Secret of the Ooze before I jumped into this game, but I had the VHS and watched it more than I should have for how good that movie was. But yeah, like I like that they lean a little bit into what their personalities are. But Jeff, you feel like you wanted more ooze from this dialogue.
Just like, I feel like any other Ninja Turtle like incarnation that I've seen has had more personality and kind of a more interesting. Even those old live action movies, like this feels like it was made by people who like they made it based on their impressions of what they remember about Ninja Turtles and kind of like, well, okay, it's for, it's like, let's make a family story about the Ninja Turtles. And I remember that Michelangelo was the party dude, and and it's like there have been good, like animated Ninja Turtle movies, with where like they're actually much more like teenagers, and
You're
like
just talking
those
about the
have been
last
well
one.
received.
Yeah.
And like the original comics are like more adult and super weird, and it's just like of all the avenues that you could have like picked for the Ninja Turtles, this is kind of just the most basic plain Jane version of them. But
They're below the avenues. All right, TMNT Tactical Takedown. Curious to hear everyone else's thoughts on this thing. If we jump in more, friend of the show, Charles McGregor, who's been on the podcast and was on the Deepest Dive for Last of Us Part 2 and stuff. He worked on this game over there, so shout out. That's cool. There's another game that we talked about years ago, and oh, how we loved it. Oh, how we rejoiced. And now the DLC has launched. Kyle, is this free DLC?
It is completely free to the point of like bizarre. I don't know why this is free.
being a bad idea.
Yeah, this is
like I'll have an interview on Game Informer soon. I have to transcribe it with the director, and he basically said like, yeah, no, this didn't make economic sense really for us to make this free. But it's like an 8-hour story expansion for Sea of Stars that is like a whole new area, whole new art style. In the story context, the characters change clothes and they have completely different attack styles, so they're not even using the same animations from the original game.
Yeah.
It's really substantial, and I really like it. It's really good. I did finish it.
Okay, so this is Throes of the Watchmaker for Sea of Stars. Is it like launching from the main menu? Like if people don't really remember where they left off in Sea of Stars, is it still available?
Yeah, I did have a moment, like I did boot up my save and I was like, okay, I got to remember how to do this. And I pretty quickly, a character is like, hey, we got to go back here. And I had a moment of panic where I was like, well, okay, I don't remember how to get back there. And thankfully the game just is like, we're taking you there. Like if you start this dialogue, we're going to take you there. And then the thing that's really nice is it actually totally acknowledges, it's like, we know you haven't played this game in a while. Right? So you're going to go into this brand new area where you have a bunch of party members you can pick from for the main game. We're actually going to pick one for you. There is like one character that you can take with you. You don't have to make that decision because you don't remember everyone's attacks. And then the main characters, they get, Metroided and they lose all their abilities, which means you get to kind of start from zero with a whole new set of attacks to play the rest of the DLC. And it's good. It really it functions well. Like I got back into the swing of it very quickly. And without having to remember a lot of like what was going on. Like they did it, that was by design, and I think it was really effective and it worked well.
Yeah, that's sweet. And so Watchmaker is like the whole new character here. Is that what's going on?
Watchmaker is in the main game. You meet the Watchmaker, and they're just they're kind of an odd character because like they are very powerful, but they don't really engage with you or help you or talk to you really. Like they're like, I'm here, but like I'm not part of your adventure, so like just leave me alone. So this is your chance to go back and finally see what was the deal with that character, which is kind of cool if you're invested in the lore of Sea of Stars, which is surprisingly dense.
Yeah,
like it's fun.
So at the level of the base Sea of Stars, which I know you and Haley were over the moon about, or is it better than the core Sea of Stars?
No, I wouldn't say better than the core. I mean, it's hard to compare like the baseline experience to what is meant to be sort of a thing to the side that's very good.
Yeah.
But like it is one of those things where it's like, I mean, if after finishing Clair Obscur, right? If you like the sort of that kind of combat where it's very like button based and timing and stuff like that, and you played Sea of Stars, like there's no reason really other than your own time availability to not go back and play this. It's very good. It's like it's more Sea of Stars that understands that you haven't played in a while, and it's really fun to revisit that game. I like Sea of Stars a lot. So
yeah, just looking at the gameplay, it's like I forgot how good Sea of Stars looked. Like I forgot how good that pixel art was. Just in the launch up to it, we were so obsessed with that idea of like, oh, it looks like a Game Boy Advance RPG. It is just so cool to see them.
I mean, I
this.
think it's the closest to Chrono Trigger anybody's ever gotten. I think truly. I mean, just basic. Also, I mean, not even just because the composer made music for it, and like there's lots of Chrono Trigger references, but I can't think of another like sort of 16-bit inspired RPG that I felt closer to Chrono Trigger from. I mean, it's like a weird compliment to give it, I guess. But,
yeah. Oh, so I guess you're saying I Am Setsuna meant nothing to you.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, that's fair.
Kyle, real quick, because I know the they made it so that the base game now has co-op. Does the DLC also have co-op? Like, do you know anything about that aspect of the updates?
I don't know, actually. I would assume it does. I would be surprised if it does not allow for co-op. Yeah. I haven't touched any of the co-op, no.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very generous. It's just nice to have like a nudge for everyone to be like, by the way, Sea of Stars was awesome. Here's some DLC to maybe remind you and get a second wave boost here, but that's great.
Yeah, if you loved Sea of Stars, like absolutely worth going back to. And it does also like there's more references even to specific 16-bit era RPG stuff. Like there's like some Final Fantasy VI stuff in here, which is fun.
Interesting. Okay, sweet.
So yeah, very good.
Kai, why do you want to talk about a game that you don't like with Blades of Fire? What is going on with Blades of Fire?
Oh man, Blades of Fire has been an arduous journey for me. Blades of Fire is developed by Mercury Steam, which I feel like is the headline.
Yes.
Lords of Shadow, Metroid Dread. I love Lords of Shadow, the first one. Like it locked me in as a forever Mercury Steam fan. I will always pay attention to what they're doing. Truly, that's how much that game. I really love that game, and they've had this weird trajectory where their licensed games are like fantastic. Like, well, the second Lords of Shadow isn't very good, but like their Lords of Shadow games are good, and then both of their Metroid games are really good. And every time they venture out to go do like an original thing, like Space Lords, it just kind of falls flat. And Blades of Fire is odd because it's not. I'm not ready to say like it's like a failure or that it completely falls flat, because there are times where it like sings and I really like it, and it's like it recalls Lords of Shadow in ways that I really like, where like the protagonist really reminds me of Gabriel Belmont, and but man, like navigating that world is just so hard, and this is my whole thing with this game. I keep going back and forth. It's like moving around the world is so hard, but the combat is really weird and unique. The 4 face buttons actually dictate where you're swinging your sword. So like the south button, you swing from the bottom, the east button, you swing from the right. And then when you lock on enemies, you can see which parts are their weaknesses, which is like, that's really interesting and different, but like then they don't quite dig into it as much as they want, and it's like harder than it needs to be. But like I like the world, and I like the dynamic between the two main characters, and it's like it's just one of those games, man, where it's like there's something here that they didn't quite get. And it's also that strange thing where it has not diminished my appreciation for Mercury Steam in any way. Even though really? I'm hitting some really big frustrating hurdles with this game, I am still always going to check in with what Mercury Steam is doing. Like whatever they announce next, like I'm there, you know, like I want to see what they're doing, because like it's one of those games where it's like they really tried something. It's like their take on Dark Souls, and it's like they really did try to do some different things with it. And a lot of it's like not hitting, but then there are moments where I'm like, I really liked that. I like this one part a lot.
Does it seem pretty explicit? Like this is them being like, if you like Lords of Shadow, winky winky, stomp our feet. This is their spiritual successor to that game in particular.
I did a video at Game Informer where I did like new gameplay today, and it was kind of like the headline I made for it, because I think it's mostly aesthetics, right? It's just this big muscular dude with a sword who's like surprisingly soft-spoken, which is the thing I always liked about Lords of Shadow, is that Gabriel Belmont is like this really level, calm dude, you know, even though he existed in that gruff voice era of video games. Yeah. And like, so, and I like the main character in this game because like, you're just like this dude in the woods, and he just hears something bad happening, and he's like, oh, okay, I better go save them, whatever it is. And he's just like immediately on a mission of goodwill, like the second the game starts. And and then there's also this whole thing where you make all your weapons, and you actually like it's like a mini game almost, where you're actually pounding out metal, and like the better can shape your metal, the more times you can repair that weapon.
Okay, again, great in a pitch, and like this is going to set us apart, and it just doesn't quite fit together.
It doesn't. It's not quite there. I believe there is a demo. So if you're a Lords of Shadow fan and you're like a Souls fan, the Souls, I know everything gets compared to Souls. The Souls stuff is mostly a matter of like the way you navigate the world, the challenge, and then also when you die, you drop the weapon that you made. You don't have like, you don't have souls that you're picking up, but like you do have to go retrieve something important to you. And like And there is this thing where you get emotionally engaged with this weapon because you built it, and you're not going to leave it behind. You want to go back and get it. But like, yeah, there's for me, it's like it's not quite there, but there is. It's a fascinating game that there are moments that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, Blades of Fire is the name of that one.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for them to have an original game that just clicks and takes off, because like Space Lords didn't really click. I don't know that this one's going to click, but they're good at making games. They've made some really incredible games, like genuinely fantastic games. So.
They're the Russo brothers of game studios. Of like, God, when they're partnered with the right people, I'm going to proudly say they're the Russo brothers of the game development world.
They made like 3 good episodes of TV 10 years ago.
Hang on. You don't like any of their Marvel movies, Jacob?
I think they made 2 good Marvel movies and have proved that it wasn't them that made them good.
How dare you? They've made 4 good Marvel movies. Hey, we should shout out people jumping in to support us on Patreon. That's how this whole thing operates. People like Colby Fink jumped in at the $2 tier. Hey, small little bit from you, but huge thing for us. It is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times more helpful to have somebody support us at even that $2 tier on Patreon than just watching on YouTube or listening as a podcast. And so we'll DM you a Steam code for Spirit Swap, a puzzle game. Shout out to Catherine as well, who just upgraded to the $10 tier. We'll be sending her a Steam code for Spirit Swap as well. And she also gets over 140 hours of bonus content. So thanks so much, Catherine. And shout out to, of course, our dear friends at I'm8bit. They want everybody to know about the Messenger, the vinyl soundtrack for The Messenger, an amazing soundtrack from One Sabotage Studios, the same developers who, of course, made Sea of Stars and the DLC that we just talked about. But you can get the vinyl for The Messenger. It's reissued now in I'm8bit's wonderful online store, and you can help support I'm8bit directly by going to their online store and using the promo code It's Gonna Be May. It's gonna be May. 10% off everything in I'm8bit's wonderful online store, except for pre-orders and except for Atlas vinyls. Everything else 10% off with that promo code. Help support them, because I'm8bit supports the MinnMax community in a huge way by shipping in a prize each and every week. You can tell that they mean it, that they're a cool company, and that they really want to support the MinnMax community, because they ship out awesome things like this. Whoever has the best question this week for the MinnMax show wins the 4 vinyl set of the full Hades soundtrack with smoky red vinyl. One of the greatest soundtracks of all time. So exciting.
This is the closest I've ever been to messaging you and being like, instead of giving it away, could you just send that to me? Like, I'm very jealous of whoever wins this one.
I mean, Jacob, you can ask a question. Yeah, ask a question right now, man. What do you got?
What if you had to have a game developer make a game that they weren't known for? What would it be?
It feels condescending if you're impersonating the tone of our community, but it's a great question, Jacob. Thank you so much for writing in from North Carolina. I'm going to go with, I want Naughty Dog to make a game about robots.
Done.
That was kind of condescending to the cohorts on the podcast.
Yeah, I think both sides of this conversation are not functioning well. So sorry, no Hades vinyl for you, but it's going to one of these lucky people. Tom Bryan writes in and they say, what is the most famous video game character created in the last 10 years?
Time to Google how long was 10 years ago.
Well, I like this
is
question.
Anyone else like, what is time?
I like this question. I didn't have an answer, but every time I thought of one, maybe I was like, oh wait, no, that was more than 10 years ago.
I know.
Like Geralt.
Yeah, we're
right?
old.
He's like more than 10.
Geralt's way more than, you're just thinking of Witcher 3 just turned 10 years old. Yeah, even like Last of Us, like, I don't know, that's 12.
The Bloodborne guy?
No, I mean,
I don't know.
I feel like Aloy is a pretty easy answer.
Solid.
She's certainly iconic. And I also thought of Arthur Morgan.
That's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah, that's a really great pick. I mean, that being said, most famous video game character. Now, this is gross of me, but I'm thinking like walking through a Target, I'm not going to see a t-shirt with Arthur Morgan's face on it. You know what I mean? Like, is there somebody that's at that level of fame?
Sans from Undertale, Chronically Online.
Yeah.
Well, when did Undertale come out, though?
I think it's 2015.
2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, Janet, that is a really good answer.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Especially among the youth.
Kyle, shut your mouth.
Ooh.
Five Nights at Freddy's is 2014, so never speak on this podcast again. I was also thinking that angle. What about this one? Tracer. from Overwatch. Is she?
Tracer's not bad.
I was trying to think of what Overwatch character
I
would be
feel
number
like
one.
she peaked and is going back down. You know, like
She
if
did
you would
go back
ask
down,
this
yeah.
in like 2019, Tracer for sure, but I haven't seen like a meme with Tracer in it or something for like 5 years.
The UI from Pokemon Go.
The UI from Pokemon
I'm
Go.
I'm just kidding. I'm sticking with my good
Willow,
answer. So.
right? Professor Willow? He counts.
Of course,
Is that his name?
Abby from Last of Us Part 2. Is that counting? And I don't know if it's
I just
famous.
think it's wrong.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think enough people know. Same with
It's
same
like
with Aloy.
She doesn't have like a design, you know, just because of like the realistic, which is also kind of the same as Arthur Morgan, but it's like, you know, you can't kind of make like a Lego Abby, you know.
Yeah, Hollow Knight.
Hollow Knight.
Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, Jacob, it's in the travelogue, but yeah, when we were in Sao Paulo, it was amazing. There's like Hollow Knight cosplay. Hollow Knight like stands on the street where you could buy Hollow Knight toys. It was like, whoa. But related to Hollow Knight, like, is Cuphead a contender here?
That's the one I was just about to say, because I was looking at like best games of, you know, various years. And I think, because the thing about
Kyle
Cuphead
stole
is
how my methodology. That's what I'm doing this whole time.
Cuphead also has like a Netflix animated adaptation.
Right. So I think.
And Cuphead is one of those characters that like people that I know who don't really play video games. Like I had a friend who was like bought a Switch recently. He was like really enamored with Cuphead and started playing Cuphead.
Yeah.
And like I think, and I also this could be too much of a stretch. I feel like if you don't play video games but you've seen Cuphead, you might know that that's from a video game. Maybe.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's a possibility. Yeah.
So Cuphead, final answer.
I think it's Cuphead. And it feels gross to be like, just think of how many Netflix cues he's appeared in, but like that alone, I think is pushing him north of all these other characters.
I'm going Sans from Undertale. So
Yeah,
that's my
I think
final
Janet's
answer.
right. I used to be like a counselor at a summer camp, and like kids who absolutely never touched Undertale or played video games would be like intimately familiar with Undertale lore. It was just like a language they all spoke.
That's fascinating.
It's like Minecraft if you want to read more.
Yeah. Do you are we just not plugged into the right circles? It's weird that like in 2 weeks, Deltarune is launching on Switch 2, the first 4 chapters of it. I feel zero buzz on the streets for Deltarune. Am I alone?
It's because it's not done, I guess.
Yeah.
I know I misspoke last time when I kind of fumbled the amount of episodes that go into it. I think that's why there's not more buzz for it.
I mean,
guess so.
Undertale, I guess it depends on the day of the week, but Undertale's my daughter's favorite game of all time, and she has been playing all the Deltarune chapters.
Yeah.
And she's like, and even she's kind of like, okay, I guess I'll play it, because it's not going to be complete. It's not the final product.
Okay. Yeah, weird. Patrick G writes in and says, "Hey y'all, we're so close to a brand new chapter in Nintendo. So what's the last game you will play on your Nintendo Switch 1? I think Sea of Stars DLC will be mine," says Patrick G. Good question.
Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, final answer. I have played my last game on Nintendo Switch, and it was like a year ago.
Whoa!
I think I've already played my last game too. I'm just trying to think, what was the last thing I booted up on the Nintendo Switch?
I played
don't
Killer
remember what
Instinct
it was.
Gold last night, so that might be my final one.
That's a very fitting one. Oh, Janet, it's going to be Bayonetta Origins when you finally get around to beating that, like we pinky swore on the podcast. Do you recall?
No, because I can just put that on my Switch too.
Oh yeah,
That's the
yeah.
thing.
It's going to run better.
And that's
Carries
kind of
over.
the issue with the question. Like, not like it's a problem with the question, but anything that I haven't finished on Switch 1, I will just play on Switch 2 because it's backwards compatible.
Yeah, but it's got to be. I get like feeling the hardware of Switch 1. I feel like is the core of the question, right?
I played through Donkey Kong Country Returns HD.
Yeah.
That might
You
be
know
it.
what? I played Tropical Freeze again. Like I played it on the Wii U, like any sane person. But I got it again on Switch because it made me play with my fiance, but he hated Donkey Kong, so I just might down the drain. So
And you guys are
Some
still
people
getting
don't-
married then?
I know some people.
Okay.
So he doesn't jump high enough. I was like, you can be, was it Dixie or whatever?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I don't want to be Dixie because it's called Donkey Kong. I was like, well, then you got to get better at jumping. I don't know what to tell you. You don't want the solutions, but this is my plight as a platformer stan. There's not many of us left, and everyone is like 50 years old.
Yeah. They're dying.
And then
now.
me.
Yes, sir.
You want to know what mine was? I think
Not really.
Yeah.
Volfied.
Yeah, Wolfie,
I think that was the last thing I've played.
Really?
Lied.
That's the arcade game from 1989 that I'm obsessed with.
But yeah, when
Nice.
did Zelda come out?
2023.
Tis the Kingdom?
May 2023.
No, the other Zelda.
Oh, no
I
one
know
knows.
it's
last
Zelda.
year.
Wisdom.
Last
Yeah,
year.
Jacob, you played Echoes of Wisdom.
Oh, that's
you
true.
liar.
I played that for like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry,
there it is.
I mean an hour. Also, I guess we played Smash Ultimate during the charity stream.
Aha, we got you.
So probably that.
You got caught playing Switch 1.
Got you. I think mine is a game that I became obsessed with. And it's one of those things I'm like, this has to be great. This has to be the best game ever. I need to jump in and play it. Kyle, I was looking at the gameography of Koizumi, who's kind of like, what Aonuma is to Zelda, Koizumi is to 3D Mario on the Tokyo team for like all the recent 3D Marios and stuff. He was directing them, then producing them and stuff. And I was looking at his credits and I was like, wait, in 2019, he produced this game. See if you can remember this, Kyle. He produced a game that was developed by Tarsier, the developers of Little Nightmares. Do you remember this thing at all?
No.
It's called The Stretchers. And he hasn't.
Oh,
Do you remember? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like he hasn't
That was
produced.
Tarsier?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, like he
Okay.
hasn't produced that many games. So like it really stands out that like he was leaning into this game from the Little Nightmares developers. And it's called The Stretchers, and it's like a co-op game. It looks and feels actually a lot like Deliver at All Costs, where it's kind of like isometric camera, except you're driving your little ambulance around and then getting out, and you have like stretchers and you're like loading people onto stretchers, and in a very slapsticky kind of way, like, whoa, gotta get them in the ambulance. It is the weirdest little game.
Is it co-op?
Yeah, yep.
I was like, okay, that's probably why I didn't touch it.
Yeah, I jumped into it expecting the stars, and I ended up near the sun. Is that how the expression goes, Jacob? Or it's fine. It's a little cute open world thing, and you kind of get the idea quickly. But it sent me down this rabbit hole that is so niche. Please, someone else be interested in this on Earth other than maybe Kyle. I feel like it's the best I can do. But there are like games for the Switch that Nintendo published that are like second party indie games. And there's a handful of them. And it's really weird if you look at this as just a group of like, this is Nintendo publishing these kind of indie games, but they're actually publishing it. Or like Snipper Clips, right? Remember that when they launched the Snipper Clips? And then there's stuff like Good Job. Remember that, where it's like you're the little...
Which is like the little office sign characters, right?
Yep, like in the factory and stuff. Cadence of Hyrule technically counts. Do you remember Sushi Striker?
I think I reviewed Sushi Striker.
Okay, it wasn't bad. That was also a Nintendo published joint. Flip Wars, do you remember this?
Oh, vague. These are like, you're pulling into
You should have made this into a trivia thing on,
You're
is this
right.
a made-up game or is this a Nintendo published second
Nintendo
party
published a
Nintendo
game on the
thing?
Switch called Flip
I actually,
Wars.
there was a couple nights where my daughter and I got into Flip Wars. I remember she was like, she liked it. I was about to say she was really into it. It's like, that's way too strong. She was like,
It's her favorite developer, actually.
Yeah.
And then the weirdest, I was like, there's no way this is real, but Nintendo published on the Nintendo Switch a game called DC Superhero Girls Teen Power, which is exclusive to the Switch still. You remember this, Kyle?
It was like it was almost perfectly aligned with the age that my daughter was at the time, where it was kind of meant to be for her. She did not play it, but I remember that was an early example of just going crazy because I couldn't figure out who developed the game when they announced it.
Oh.
Couldn't share like who the developer was, and that was the first instance of that, which is now common for Nintendo, frustratingly.
Right.
Where I was like, Nintendo's publishing it? Who's making this game? Should I care?
And it turns out,
very
boy,
weird.
you needed to care about DC Superhero Girls : Teen Power. It's about time some teens have some power in this world. Am I right, teens? Rise up! Owen McCarter. Speaking of quizzes, they say, hey, MinnMax, I forgot. Can anybody remind me, what was the name of the pirate stealth game from 2023 by Me Games that Leo really loved?
Oh, come on, Leo's not on this.
Crew, right? Crew is in the title?
Correct. Warmer.
Really?
It's like Cursed Crew.
Oh, that's the subtitle. And the very memorable primary title is Shadow
Monte Cristo.
Gambit, the Cursed Crew. Shadow Gambit, everybody.
We would have got there.
And then Omar Carter says, also, Max Spielberg directed that game that's going 1.0 right now. What was the name of that game that we did the interview about?
Linked,
Easy.
Banner of the Spark.
Of course, linked Banner of the Spark. We got it. Also, Owen Ricardo says, hey, what was the subtitle for the Metroidvania Prince of Persia game that released? That was really good last year.
Lost Crown?
There we go. Bonus, says Owen. What was the main character's name from Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown?
The princess assistant guy.
Right?
It did not begin with a D.
Wait, give me a second. Let's see. There's dialogue, and they say, "Hey, you."
Oh, they do.
No, I have no idea.
It sounds like a sci-fi movie that starred Sean Connery in the 80s.
We're getting further away from
yeah,
me knowing
you're right.
this
Sorry.
answer.
Where
This
he's
is-
like wearing the weird like thong
the
thing?
sexy thong thing. Yeah, I mean weird thong thing. Sargon is the name of the main character, of course, from Prince of Persia. Quiz us, everybody. Keep writing in with these quizzes. Till the end of time, we're not going to forget Shadow Gambit, the Curse Crew. Swell 001 will be the judge of that. Writes in to say, hey, cohorts, is baking a form of cooking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
They say, some context. My friend brought in banana bread one day, and I said that the banana bread that she cooked was very good. She responded by saying thanks, but she baked it. She didn't cook it. And this eventually spiraled into a whole thing within our friend group, half saying that baking is a form of cooking, while the other half is saying that baking and cooking are two separate categories under a larger food prep umbrella. Please help settle this 3-year-long debate.
It's a square rectangle situation.
You think so?
It's also a metaphor simile situation where I think some people will say like, oh, metaphor and simile, they're totally different. But wait, God, let me get the right order. The simile is just a type of metaphor. It's like, sure, you can be like a jerk and be like, it's totally different. It is a different definition, but it's a type of metaphor.
I don't. I mean,
Now I'm
but
more
it's
confused.
like I don't think it's a strict subset relationship, because there are a lot of people who will say that they are like a good baker that aren't going to like make you a steamed fish dinner or something. It's like they are good at like this thing, and it doesn't include the thing that it is a part of. But I still think that baking is a version of cooking, but being a good baker, I think is like, I think that I'm a pretty good baker and not a great cook. And I do think that those are different.
They're different. They're different skills, and you set us up on this one, Hanson, because the answer most definitely, they should have said that they baked it.
They should
not
have said
cooked
baked it. Absolutely. It is weird to say cook for banana bread. Absolutely.
But I wouldn't stumble over that. If someone was like, I cooked banana bread, I wouldn't.
I'd judge them. I'd lock in my brain they're a moron, but I wouldn't stop them.
Let's say
I would also wouldn't
you
correct
idiot,
somebody
Kyle.
like, actually, I baked it. Yeah, I wouldn't be like, oh, actually, I baked it. Like,
Yeah.
all right.
If
You're
I was
fine.
like, I ate some soup for lunch, would you guys all be like, wrong?
Oh, we would crush
drank
you.
it.
Oh my God. You drank
consumed
that
it.
soup.
Well, there's usually stuff in the soup though, so you should be chewing the stuff that's
Yeah.
in there.
No, it was smooth.
You drank the
It was
Kool-Aid.
tomato
If
soup.
you
There
said I
weren't
ate a
bits.
glass of milk, maybe then we would kind of be like, okay.
Yeah.
No, I
that
did.
would
I
be
ate
weird.
the glass.
Have one a day. It's good for the stomach. Michael Griffin writes in and says, in about a year, will we be gearing up to listen to the deepest dive on GTA 6? Yeah, I think we thought we were going to do it this year. So it's kind of surprising.
It'll be like a Tears of the Kingdom approach, right? Which, if I remember correctly, was like much looser, but like defined conversations about GT.
Well, this is different because there's going to be a linear story, you know?
That is
Like,
true.
I think,
Yeah.
I mean, full disclosure.
Tears has one too.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think
Like
so.
Tears absolutely does
Kingdom?
not have a linear story.
Because you can find all that
I
stuff
mean,
in
but-
any order.
You can go in any order you
Oh
want.
yeah, you can't go in any order. Yeah.
So, but I think, we were talking about it. I think the last time
Choose your own linearity. You know?
That's exactly it. But the last time we talked about GTA 6, I think in a Monday meeting was like, yeah, we can't dodge that. Like, enough of us are curious about it, and it's just going to be so all-consuming that, of course, we should do the deepest dive on it. And then it was kicked down the road a year, so who knows what May of 2026 is going to be like, but I don't
There's
know.
going to be a
They
nice
should have
window
given
of
it
time
to
where
us and then delayed the release for a year, so we actually had enough time.
and Jeff,
Everyone
you
would
I
have
wish
like-
we could like fully pre-record a deepest dive.
Yes.
I know it wouldn't have like community feedback, but if we all got a game like 3 months early and we could just do every episode and then release them.
It'd be interesting. I wouldn't rule it out, but having the community comments is very nice to help shape the conversation for sure.
We could make up the community comments.
Oh, yeah, it could just be Jacob because he does a spot on impersonation of everybody in our community.
And just
apparently.
gaslight the community like, oh, you didn't submit your question? You must have missed it. I guess you're not paying attention.
Yeah,
That would be the best secret episode of Scripted Podcast. Is like, could we do a whole deepest dive and everyone would be like, oh, I guess my comment didn't get picked.
Yeah.
L. Stockler writes in and says, hey, MinnMaxers, before being immortalized as Ninja Turtles, Leonardo, Raphael, Michelangelo, and Donatello were just historical accomplished artists. This should be a get a load of this. This is fascinating. So which other... Sorry, now we're just turning into dicks against the community. Sorry. No, but L. Stockler says, which other accomplished artists do you think should be immortalized as a turtle ninja?
I think it would be really fun to have like modern art that people get mad at, Slate of Turtles. So you have like Duchamp, who had like the signed urinal. You know, like Rothko with the big colored squares.
These are antagonists for the turtles. Is what it is, right?
Bad art versus good art?
Yeah, everyone gets mad at them. The guy who taped the banana to the wall.
I was waiting for Kyle to chime because on Slack he replied and said Banksy, which I thought was really funny.
I do
Who's
think
just always around. They always mention the fifth turtle, but like they're never seen. You know, they never know who he is.
But occasionally, just like a Molotov cocktail will come flying in and take out some Foot Clan. Like that has to be his weapon, right?
Yeah, right. I'm trying to remember. There was the live action Ninja Turtles show during the era of like Power Rangers that was like one season where they added a fifth turtle.
Live action?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it was a female turtle, and I think her name was Venus.
Yeah, which is confusing. It's like it's a famous subject of art,
not a Renaissance painter.
They couldn't think of a famous woman artist.
Right? Name a woman for $1.
I mean, it would be like if they added a new one and named him David. Be like, no, that's the name of art. That's breaking the format.
Yeah, which is why that show failed. I think kids recognize that, and
I think so.
It was also really unsettling to have like they couldn't get the Henson costumes, so you know they had like really budget costumes.
Oh no, it's a cardboard box painted green. I think
a lot of turtles just standing around talking because that's about all the costumes were capable of doing.
That's good. You know. Her art's her art, but as a name, it's pretty badass. But if there's a turtle that was just called Yoko Ono, like just Ono as a name for a turtle would be sweet. We're all in agreement, right?
Cool.
All right, thank you. And it would attack with like bed sheets. I don't know, what would Yoko Ono use?
Knitting.
It's not like Leonardo attacked with nunchucks, like the real artist.
True. That's true. The reference was she did like the sleep in protest where she was in bed for like a week or something. Not that because she slept with a beetle, to be very clear.
Honestly, that was my reaction. I was like,
wow.
Ben, what is this joke? This is very lowbrow even for you. But no, good correction.
Thank you. Somebody was talking about some Yoko Ono art recently. Am I an artistic simpleton for being like...
Yes.
Okay, Jacob, first you attack the community, then me. No, for being like, that's so simple. But I'm like, that works. That's some good, as simple as you can get, little thought-provoking art where Yoko Ono had a piece. Get this, Jeff. It was a giant chess set in like an art gallery, right? But both sides were white.
Yeah.
Isn't that good? I was like, that works. That'll make me think for a little bit. I like it. That's art, baby.
Were the squares also just all white?
No, I think they were standard.
Nah, she fucked it up.
So you could technically play it, but then it's like, hey, aren't we all the same? Yeah. Imagine there's no religion.
Aren't we all white?
If you really think about it, at the end of the day,
depends what podcast you're listening to. Hey, anyway.
Boojum writes in and says, hey, I had a Tonka truck PC game as a kid that came with this awesome controller that's strapped onto a keyboard to turn it into a truck control panel.
We talked about this on PvP Bang.
Oh, yeah. Right. Complete with a key to start it.
I don't know if it was that one exactly, but yeah.
Yeah, and a gear shifter. I love that it was a keyboard attachment instead of the whole special controller. Yeah, this thing does look awesome. If you've never looked up this Tonka Truck PC game controller keyboard attachment, it rules. Please look it up, everybody.
Wasn't the Pew Pew Bang one was like a cooking game, right?
There was two. There was one. I don't think the other one was the Tonka truck. I know it had like drill. It was more like a construction thing. Maybe Tonka, maybe not. And then the one that Kelsey had was the cooking one. Like her brother had the other one. And same idea though, like a peripheral of your, pretending to bake which is different than cooking, as we just discussed. And you're like hitting, one of the buttons to kind of, add that layer of immersion. But yeah, fun stuff.
Fun stuff. Gouda writes in. They have a simple question for everybody, perhaps. Do you know your mom's name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I'm scared.
Do you know your grandma's name? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know your great grandma's names?
No.
One of them, I think. Yeah.
I was really thinking about this. I'm like, I guess there are 4 of them. I think I only know 1, which is pretty damning. To be fair, also great grandfathers. I think I got 2. Right? 2 of 4. Is that math correct?
So the question is, do we feel bad after?
Well, kind of.
No, they were dead. They've been dead for who knows how long. I never knew them. Yeah.
Try not dying next time. So Gouda follows it up by saying, this is a little thought experiment I've developed to remind myself that life is short, enjoy it, and don't take things too seriously. You'd be surprised how many people don't know the answer to the great grandmother's name.
So the point is, we'll be forgotten. Is that?
Very much
Thank you for this existential thing. Well, guess what? People are going to be listening to this podcast long after I'm dead, all right?
I question that.
Maybe if my great-grandma had a podcast, I'd know her name. That's just a joke.
Kyle, your brother, I think it was on Instagram the other day, he posted your great-grandma, great-great-great-great-grandma, going back to 1533 or some nonsense, or it was the deepest dive I've ever seen into that, so...
Yeah, he's really into that. He enjoys that process of researching our family history, which actually I really enjoy a lot because it's it's not so much that I am fascinated in his discoveries as much as it reassures me that someone in our family is concerned with it.
Right. But I think it's cool. But what do you think it is that compels somebody to be that into family heritage stuff?
I don't know. I mean, some people really get into history and knowing who they are and where they came from. And
do you think it's a search for something within your soul that you feel like you're trying to piece together, and that's what you're trying to scratch at?
Maybe. Yeah. Know yourself better by knowing where you came from, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know, man.
Answer.
Do you want me to call him?
I want you to think about the question.
It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt. Yeah.
Let's see. DJ Tommy Pizza, Backstage Pass chat, talking about the great grandma's names. He said, hey, they didn't know my name either. That's true. They started it.
Very rude of them.
Yeah.
Although they probably heard our names at some point.
The nuh-uh defense, yes.
Yep. Mr. Buttons writes in and says, hey, MinnMax, how often, if at all, do you respect your characters in games?
I'm not doing that.
I don't think
Trust
I
the
ever
builds.
have.
Snowbike Mike apparently said that once on content.
He said,
and
trust your builds?
Trust the build. Yeah, I think every now and then Mike gets in his bag. I think he hit the nail on the head with that. Trust the build.
Yeah.
You pick those things for a reason.
The only exceptions are being stuck at a boss for hours. In Elden Ring, when I was fighting Millennia, I respect 3 times because I was just my build is just not good enough. But if it can get past something, I'm never just respecting for fun. It has to be I've hit a brick wall and I can't get past it.
Right. Macedo, hang on, look at the segue. Pause that. Emma Goin Nuts is this person's name. They ask, I recently figured out a solution for hanging art in my rented house without damaging the walls, but I haven't been collecting any art until now. My current plan is to get some prints of favorite holiday memories and a couple reproductions of NASA illustrations from the 60s and 70s, but I still have plenty of space left to fill. Just like NASA. So what's on your wall? They ask. Do you have a favorite piece? Where do you find good art? Tricky question. I'm also still struggling with this a little bit.
Ben, you do something, and I'm not saying this to put you on blast, but I am saying it in a way that I've never seen anyone else do this, which is you will take pictures of things and print them yourself and hang them up, but not family photos. You got high quality photos from the Tetris collection, and then you went to a Kinko's or something and had it printed out, right?
I went to prettygoodprinting.com.
Okay.
They printed out the Tetris Forever art. That is true. Yeah, that's funny. That was a twist of that was going to be my recommendation of just I think we all have great art in our phone right now. Just get it printed out and then frame it. And as long as it looks good, it looks good. and you don't have to spend a gazillion dollars paying some hack-ass artist like Yoko Ono for some art to put up on your walls.
There's no in between.
Hanging your bed sheets on the wall.
Hanging your goddamn bed sheets.
Yeah, I have the opposite recommendation, which is buy from local artists.
Yeah, that's a better option.
They're not expensive. If you just go to like local galleries or like farmers markets or whatever, like you can just get stuff that people have made and it doesn't cost much, and then you have like a thing that someone made on your wall.
Correct. Obviously, that's correct. Support local artists, please. However, what about this? What about this idea? Is it weird to think of like, gosh,
take a picture of their art and then print it out yourself?
Oh no!
Jacob and I, we talked about it when we were in a museum in Sao Paulo. It's like we both really like this piece of art. And I'm like, how tacky would it be if I took a picture of this and then printed it out at home and like blew it up in a big way? I'm never going to own this famous piece of art.
That's pretty dorky. Well, you can buy the replications in the store usually.
They didn't have them. They didn't have them. So at that point, what are you going to do?
It's a little. It's.
I mean, I will say it is like technically illegal. I think like if an artist doesn't sell prints of their work,
right? I
think you're not allowed. But also, it's like, well, who's going to get you for it?
Right.
The art police are going to be knocking at your door.
Come at me! But okay, what about this though? Like, I was really just thinking about this. There's this like, there's a frame in the Pokemon manga. I want to remind everybody I'm a cool adult man, but there's a frame in like the Pokemon manga that I think is really great. And I was like, God, what do I do with this? Would it be cool to like take a picture of that with my phone so it's high quality and then get it printed as like a huge blown up thing? Or maybe I can even like, because it's black and white, maybe I could like paint it myself after blowing it up.
Okay, that's just Rory Lichtenstein's work. That's literally what Rory Lichtenstein did.
And he's an artist.
Okay, so I'd be the next Lichtenstein.
So you could blow it up and then sell it yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
As your art.
Is this fine? Or even like there's some art in like a kid's book that I read to my kid that I really like. I'm like, well, is it weird just to take a picture of this and then blow that up and hang it on the wall? Like, I think the phone is just like the ultimate like zoom in, put it on a wall opportunity.
I'm curious how like maybe you're better at this than me. Like you can get like a perfect photo that doesn't have like warping or glare or whatever.
No,
you'd
see like my reflection and shadow in it. So you just have to work on it.
Okay, well, so you'd be like, oh, and Dad's always here, and my favorite.
It kind of has a haunted quality to it, I suppose. But.
Yeah, you'd have to get some flat lighting. It's possible. You can do it. It can be done.
I guess like I don't feel like I have so much wall space that I need to just start taking my phone out and printing things out off of it. But
yeah, I have like way more posters than wall.
Yeah. Well, all right, teach your own. Mike Lynch writes in and says, when Ben mentioned looking for the archive of the Out of the Game podcast last week, it reminded me how shocking it is that in 2025, you can search for something on the internet and find nothing. Is there any specific information or a video that you can't find online that you wish was more thoroughly cataloged?
I went down a rabbit hole a couple months ago where I was trying to look up Apache Plaza, which was an old shopping mall in like the area that I lived when I was a kid. And I found like a 30-second home video that someone put on Facebook from it. And then there was a news story from like the 1980s because there was a big tornado that like collapsed the roof in one part of it. And like, it's a good time to go back. Any time is a good time to go back and watch like old news stories from like when you were a little kid, like the nostalgia of the way people are dressed and seeing like your old hometown before everything was a condo and stuff. But there just wasn't that much, there were like websites and stuff that would talk about it, but there wasn't a lot of like actual old pictures and videos.
I was going to go the complete opposite route of, I have a memory that I cannot back up anywhere online. But in my memory, like I loved SSX right at the launch of PS2. And I could have sworn when SSX Tricky was announced, I remember it being announced as this is just the version of SSX we're releasing in Canada. It's like the expansion of the core game, but it's only for Canada. And I could not find any evidence of that. Like I was like, surely I was obsessed with GameSpot. It's not on GameSpot's site. I don't know. This is just one of those things that my friends told me or something.
So the thing you want documented is the delusion you had about SSX.
Is it too much to ask that the internet back up my Mandela effect of what's going on here with SSX Tricky being an expansion that only released in Canada? All right.
I had a weird thing recently where I was working on that video about digging holes, and I could find that there was a Discovery Channel show that was called like Engineering Marvels or something, that it had this episode on like the deepest mine in the world, which is in South Africa. And like, I could not find, the episode was not available to rent online. No one had uploaded it.
Yes.
It wasn't available on piracy sites. Like, it was just, it was like, and I don't even know if they made like DVDs of that show. So it was like, it was listed as like, technically this episode did come out on television, but like, I just could not figure out how I could, get my hands on it.
I'm in that same camp, but in a completely different arena, where there is a very cursed episode of TV that was Jerry Seinfeld's show on NBC called Marriage Ref. Do you remember this?
Oh, I remember when that show was a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's an episode with Adam Carolla and Donald Trump. And at some point when Trump was running for office in 2015 and 2016, I'm like, I gotta go back and watch that. Like, what was he talking about, sharing his marriage advice? And there's just, it has been nuked from orbit. Like, that just does not exist in any way. But if anybody has like, a thumb drive with the Marriage Ref seasons on it, I'm very interested. Cree McGee writes in and says, hey, MinnMax, here's a game for you. Are these games, so they call it, are these games overrated or underrated? Which is a confusing way to frame it, but I love this game, Cree. So the core idea is we have the critical score for these games, the average Metacritic stuff, versus the user score. Which is higher, right? Users or critics for the average review score here. Janet, Super Mario Sunshine, is that critics or users? Who has it higher?
Critics.
Correct. 92 versus user score of 82.
This is a very tense intro to the game. The pause is very long.
Hang on. Crowboy just cracked the code on that SSX thing. He says it was developed by EA Canada. Maybe that had something to do with it. That I bet is exactly what it was.
You didn't know what EA Canada was?
I bet I just saw that at GameSpot like back in 2000 or 2001. I was like, well, I guess this is just the Canadian release of this. That's exactly what happened, Crowboy. Oh my God, thank you. So stupid. I'm going to go kick that kid's ass who thought that back in the day. Okay, Jacob Keller. I understand you worked on this game, but Silent Hill 2 Remake, which is higher, the critical score or the user score?
Oh, critics.
User score 91 versus 86. Yeah.
I felt like this is interesting because it's like I usually think user scores are complete bullshit because it's always just people either giving it a 10 or a 1, and everyone was giving Silent Hill 2 a 1 because they thought that the women weren't hot enough.
Right. Yeah. Well, there you go.
But hey, users came through. Good for them.
Jeff, Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
Ooh, that's spicy.
Spicy.
It's anybody's game now.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. Wow. Don't overthink it.
Critics.
What could he mean when he says don't?
Correct. Critic score is 82. User score is 39. 39.
Is that bigotry again though? Or is it?
It's probably,
yeah.
I get so mad. Sorry, but it's like the user score things just make me so mad when people cite them as if they mean anything, which isn't to discredit this quiz, but when it's like, critics hated the Mario movie, but look at the user scores. I'm like, this isn't anything. Like, why are we talking about this?
Yeah. Kyle, Pikmin 4. Critics or users?
Critics.
Incorrect. Users have it at 90. Critic is at 87.
Yeah, I felt like users would be like frothing at the mouth over Pikmin, because Pikmin's so fun and delightful, and not that critics can enjoy fun and delight, but yeah, as a critic, I would also rate that lower than also, a user would.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
Jen, it's one of our top 5.
If you're a Pikmin fan, you're really in, right? And there's no one, I mean, maybe they exist, but I don't think there's anyone who has an axe to grind with Pikmin where they're like, I got to go bring down that user score.
What kind of sicko is dunking on Pikmin?
The purple Pikmin are women, so, let the internet have at them.
What's going on with Ochi? This is not just a woke dog in your game. I don't know. It's always something with some of these people.
Milk? The woke milk?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jacob, Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. Critics or users? Correct. User score
It's
is
the highest game on Metacritic, right?
really, it's a 97 for the user score. Holy cow. And the critic score is 92. Wow. That is ridiculous.
Yeah. Which both of those scores are really high. So that's actually kind of wild.
No doubt about it.
It's like it's beloved and then more beloved.
Janet,
those are the layers.
Where's your beloved meter at right now with Claire Obscure?
It's really high. That game is incredible. It is so incredible. I do not care that it needs a map and that the level design, frankly, I don't think it's that good. Don't care. The combat is wildly good. The story is also very good, which is super rare in a game that isn't a story game. So yeah, this is like 210's wrote itself, baby. It's
okay. Done deal. All right,
run it up to the top, and that's it. We're all gonna pretend that we're. What are we? I'm wondering what we're gonna pretend.
Yeah, Hanson's gonna put it at the bottom of the list for like 4 hours.
Oh, it's called podcast drama. Maybe you should try it, you baby boy. All right, what do you all like for question of the week?
There was one earlier. I don't remember who it was from, but it was like there was like a developer. If you could take a developer and have them make your like game or something.
That was really smart. Actually,
yeah, I think that guy was really smart.
I really couldn't remember what the question was. I tried to write it down too, so I'd remember. I was like, wait, what did he get?
I like the video game character from the last 10 years. I think that's a good thinker and talker.
That was fun, yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
I like the last Switch 1 game. I like the artist for the Ninja Turtles. That was certainly a talker.
I like famous character just because it's weird to think about like who stands the test of time.
There we go. Maybe it's Zagreus from Hades because Tom Bryan, you just won the vinyl soundtrack. Congratulations! And now it's time for something we love to call Get a Load of This.
Get a load of this. This is from NPR, but it was originally reported on by 404 Media. Which Raphael, as someone that's from Chicago, how an AI-generated summer reading list got published in major newspapers. If you're not familiar, that just gets into the Chicago Sun-Times had their, here's our summer reading list, and here's the kicker. It's not just that it was made by AI, it's that only 5 of the 15 titles are real.
Whoa!
They had fake books on here.
And fake
this
books.
has to be one of the most like humiliating things to happen to this city, and the sports scene ain't great. I ain't gonna lie to you. So I'm like, we just came up on the Pope, and now this had to take us down a peg. But yeah, the article, it's NPR, again, 404, check out their work as well, their original reporting on this. But yeah, they just kind of get into like, how did this happen? And basically it was sort of like, I guess they have like a deal with another company to like publish content. So it's kind of like, oh, we didn't know. And then, we pay for this thing, and then they're doing something else. But geez, this has to be, it cannot be overstated how awful and like humiliating, and also how like clear this is an example. We've talked about the negatives of AI in terms of, how it is able to generate that content, in terms of maybe stealing work, and then, and the environmental impacts and all that. But like, this is just bad. It doesn't make good content also. And then I think it's frustrating with the state of media as well, where it's like so many people probably want to do this kind of thing, could come up with this in a way that was good, and also at least real. But yeah, Jacob, you were gonna add something
it's like,
to this.
It's not even like the first 5 books were real and then 10 were fake. It was the opposite. The first 10 books were fake. Like, you look up the first book on the list, and it's not a real book.
Oh, my God.
What fun times. Hey, get a load of this, everybody. Nintendo just posted their kind of successor to the Iwata Ask series, just Ask the Developer, right? They just posted one for Mario Kart World, which is all right. There's a little bit of insight there. They're like, oh, they started the game right after Deluxe launched, and then they were struggling with development on the Switch 1. They had to pivot because they needed more time. Like, okay, we'll launch it with Switch 2. Okay, then what do we do for Switch? And then that's when they realized, like, I don't know, just release those booster courses, like release DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe years and years in.
Just release like 1,000 courses.
Yeah, so that was why that pivot came so late, because that was them panicking. Yeah. But there's just a funny little anecdote in there where they're talking about, like, okay, we wanted to add food in the courses, so you can drive through like fast food places called Yoshi's and get food. And like, okay, but then if you eat the food, we also want that to change your costume. There's originally 2 systems. We're combining it into one. And they're like, okay, so you eat the food, then you transformed. Like, yeah, that makes sense. They're like, but wait a minute. So this is like Mario eating food to transform. And then they said that they got into a debate internally about like, well, wait, so when Mario eats mushrooms, he transforms. Does he actually eat the mushroom to transform? And they said they had to go talk to Tezuka, who's been with Mario since the start, director of 3 and World. And they're like, hey, Tezuka, is Mario actually eating that mushroom when he transforms?
And Tezuka's like, who gave you this number?
Yeah. No, Tezuka just like goes, yeah, you guys, of course, what are you talking about? Like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, it's a valid question because he always just kind of touches it and absorbs it. I don't know if there's ever been like an animation of Mario.
That's the Mario movie.
Right?
This would have been before the Mario movie, where it's very clear that Mario hates mushrooms, but Peach shoves it down his gullet. Yeah, that's now canon. But I just love that idea where it's like, yeah, the obvious thing. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
Does Nintendo know what a race is? Like, why are you stopping at fast food places? And
you don't stop. You just drive through and you get the costume.
You know?
It's very clear.
You're so far ahead that it's like, I'm going to get a Yoshi
My
burger.
foot's never off the gas. Yeah, it's all supervised.
That's it.
Get a load of this. What do you guys think is the biggest game on Earth right now?
Roblox?
Monopoly Go.
It's Janet, you're right, but it's specifically, and this is an article by Nicole Carpenter for
Yes,
for
oh my
GameFile.
God, I talked to her this morning.
Wow.
It is a game called Grow a Garden, which is a game within Roblox that over this weekend had 5 million concurrent players.
Shut up.
5 million!
Oh, we failed. Oh, we have failed.
And this morning it had 5 million. She was on Remap Radio. That's why I was talking about recording the episode this morning. So, yeah.
That's
wild stuff.
Amazing. Does it look good?
It's a kid who made a game and got 5 million concurrent players. Sure, Roblox is like squeezing money out of unpaid developers, but like,
No, I'm not saying we failed as a society. I'm saying we failed for covering games, that there's a game that has 5 million concurrent players and none of us talked about it.
Because,
well, I mean, we haven't ever talked about that fashion game either, right? The runway
Oh,
one.
yeah. Oh, my gosh.
I've played it with my daughter. Yeah.
Dress to Impress. That one actually does seem pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I kind of want to check that one out. But
there's a lot of good Roblox games for sure. But it's that thing. I'm back in a place where I'm like looking at headlines and traffic for stories. If I put Roblox in a headline, it's just going to die. Like, I don't know why.
Put Roblox in the headline.
There's tons of fascination about Roblox. I know there's tons of like people playing the game, but people aren't really interested in like reading about
Kyle,
it.
Kyle, here, write this down, Poindexter. The biggest game in the world right now is something you've never heard of. Ellipses. Click through dummies. There you go. Game of
Then
go to ChatGPT and ask them to make up the name of a game and a description of it.
Exactly.
No, it is fascinating. Obviously, it's like worth covering and paying attention to. I mean, but it is interesting that like the way that works, where it's this like segment of like that's hugely popular within this group of young players who just they get everything they need out of Roblox from Roblox.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like they don't really like go seek out additional information on it because they'll just go play. They'll just go be in that world with the other players.
Also, especially with Grow a Garden specifically, which I don't know if I messed that game name up. But like what Nicole was talking about with that, like in Patrick and all of us, so many of those Roblox games, they're not about lore, narrative, mechanics. They're about like an online space to hang out in. Yeah. So I also think the one reason that there's not more like reporting on it or like why we don't cover it on the show or talk about it is there's not really as much to report back. Obviously there's exceptions. Like Dress to Impress is a game that has like a more traditional setup of like here's how it functions and you vote and you do these other things. But Grow a Garden, you put a seed in and then a plant grows. You can steal stuff from players if you pay money. I think we had the conversation just now. Like there's not going to be something more to have despite it having, this massive popularity. But it'll be interesting how, if they can survive, what future critics will be like, because these will be the games they grow up playing. Oh, yeah. Assuming that criticism doesn't explode in the next 3 minutes.
Nope, it's going to be huge for sure.
Get a load of this. I'm a big fan of the TV show Taskmaster. And the latest season, I don't know if they've always done this. Maybe this is like something I totally should know. But like the full episodes are just dropping on YouTube every week. So it's like totally free to watch. And Jason Mantzoukas is one of the cast members. So it's the first time an American has, as far as I know, I haven't watched all of Taskmaster, but I think he's the first American to be on the show. And it's like 3 episodes in and it's like a fantastic season. Like I don't know that I've laughed harder at any recent shows than just little moments in Taskmaster that just like my throat hurts. I'm laughing so much. It's so good.
That's fun.
So watch it. Go find it. The Jason Mantzoukas season on YouTube. You can just watch the full thing.
Get a load of this. Look, it's depressing times. Lots is going on in the world. And if you ever need a pick-me-up, I have a video for you called Mr. Rogers Reacts to Getting Pranked.
Oh, okay.
And it's a video of him coming in, singing his song, changing his shoes, but one of the production people switched out a pair of shoes that were too small for his feet to fit in.
Yes.
And his reaction to it is just adorable and wholesome, and it'll make you feel better.
Does he freak out?
Yeah, he swears so bad.
I was literally thinking that same.
When you
puts a
said
clown
Mr.
mask
Roger
on.
reacts, I pictured like a React YouTube
Him
thumbnail.
sitting in the
Oh boy, link below if you want to check it out. Get all of this from the community. They have a Discord channel where they share fun stories all day, every day. This is just one. I was like, oh, we should cover this a little bit. Jot shared the story of, oh boy, Jade Raymond has left Haven Studios, the
my God.
PlayStation studio that is developing Fair Games, which also dropped the $sign from its name, apparently. This is a wild journey for Jade Raymond, who, like, ever since leaving Ubisoft and being the producer on Assassin's Creed, has just dropped out of project after project, canceled, or, projects have been canceled. So now there's the big question mark about Fair Games. Like, if the head of the studio, the founder of the studio, is not there anymore, it's probably not a great sign. This was right after a big review just happened for Fair Games as well. And so very curious to see. There's a larger conversation. Maybe we've had a little bit on the show, but I think it is fascinating that, like, after, it feels like Concord in particular, Sony and Microsoft are very hesitant to push, this is our big multiplayer efforts. Like, they just know it's such a scary bet to make. And so that's why you see stuff like Midnight Murder Party that PlayStation published, right? That they just are completely silent about for marketing. Look, if it hits, it hits. And if not, we didn't do it. So who knows the future for Fair Games, but rough go for that studio up there. But that is it for this episode of the MinnMax Show. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, watching, sharing it with a friend. We greatly appreciate it. We have a ton of stuff happening here at MinnMax. You can check out our YouTube channel for even more stuff beyond this podcast if you're just a listener. We just posted a quick video where there's a very fun thing where we just posted in the Discord a while ago, like, hey, volunteering opportunity happening in St. Paul, Minnesota with an organization called Open Arms, where we prepare meals for those in need and then deliver those meals out to people who are sick and a lot beyond that. And so we posted in that Discord and we got like 15 people from the community who jumped in, like, yeah, I'll help volunteer for that. And so we made a video where it's Sarah and Leo and I prepping meals along with folks from the MinnMax community who came out. And so it's a very sweet endeavor. So shout out again to that crew who, they're sick of doom scrolling. They want to actually engage with their community in a positive way. And it felt great and it was super fun. So you can check out that video to get a taste of that. Otherwise, we have Doc Lightning happening at the end of May. That is when your short documentaries are due for our short documentary film festival. If you've never made a documentary before, good. You can start now. Use your phone. Hold it horizontal. It's all we ask. And then edit together a documentary that's under 3 minutes. And we're going to have a big film festival probably at the start of June here is the rough timing for when we're going to actually have that film festival. But you have until the end of May to submit that. You can jump in the Discord if you want some advice. There's a whole channel dedicated to that. Also this week on our YouTube channel, the Pew Pew Bang crew broke out of the podcasting mold and they said, I wasn't in those meetings, Janet, but let me imagine it went, let's do something different. Let's play a game together. And you ended up streaming 2 hours of Fortnite, which was super fun.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more in the next episode that I think drops. We're going to be talking about gaming friendships. And for that, we're like, we should play a game together as friends. And then we spent many, many days trying to be like, what time could we possibly do that? And what game should we play? So yeah, landed on Fortnite. And was it a fun time? I don't know. Watch the VOD and or listen to the pod to hear about it.
There we go. Sweet stuff. New episode of Pew Pew Bang dropping in its own standalone podcast feed this Monday. Subscribe to that feed. Tell a friend. Also, we have the deepest dive on Claire Obscure. That is also up on YouTube and in the bonus podcast feed. If you support MinnMax on Patreon at the $5 tier, you get access to the deepest dive and bonus pod and a ton more stuff in there. But the second discussion covering Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is now up. It is the best, most thorough discussion about that game on the internet. We talk about the middle section of this game. So everything from when you get your fourth party member up through when you deal with 2 Axons. That is the stopping point for this discussion. We don't spoil anything beyond that, but Haley and Kelsey and Jacob and I have a great time unpacking that. Thank you, Jacob, for not spoiling anything in the discussions, even though technically you have finished the game.
It was fun to listen and know that Jacob was doing an amazing job. So good job, Jacob.
Thank you.
I don't know if I would have just had to react as well as I could.
But thanks for the help spreading that online, everybody. We appreciate that. So Claire Obscure fans can find a very thorough discussion about that game online. Also, shout out to Bonus Pod in that bonus podcast feed. If you support MinnMax on Patreon at the $5 tier, you get access to Bonus Pod, which Haley hosts every single week. This last episode was a goodie. Most of them are good. This one was good, borderline great. This was Kelsey Lewin on there talking about what it takes to launch a new video game store with Pink Gorilla expanding to Las Vegas and all the ins and outs of that process of setting up a used game store, like how to stock the shelves, the considerations, the things she's had to learn throughout the years. It's just like, if you like people who are very knowledgeable and geeky about things that they know a lot about that you probably don't know a lot about, this is a great episode for you of just Kelsey diving into here's what it takes to run a game store. Jacob, I know you were also enthralled by that episode.
Yeah, it was good.
It's good stuff. So shout out to Haley and Kelsey. Unlock that podcast. Oh, also they talk about Pokemon cards. If you're trying to sell Pokemon cards in your store, what is that process like for dealing with distributors and stuff? There's a lot of insight in there, so you can check it out. Also, Kelsey talks about her adventures through Suikoden 1, that HD collection from Konami came out, and so she talks about a little bit of Suikoden. So if you're a big Suikoden fan, you can check that out. Notice I pronounce it differently every time, so I have all my bases covered. Also shout out no bonus pod coming out Memorial Day next week. Haley's taking the week off, so since it's on Monday at Memorial Day, there won't be a bonus pod, but we'll be back with more hidden gems in the bonus pod after that. And again, reminder: if you enjoyed this podcast, you enjoy what MinnMax is trying to build here, you can help support us directly by going to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. You jump in and even that $2 tier, $2, everybody, and we will DM you a Steam code for a great little puzzle game from earlier this year, Spirit Swap, lo-fi beats to match 3-2. So get a great indie game, help support independent games media, and you are a huge help for keeping this thing growing. That is it. Thank you so much, everybody. Greatly appreciate it. We'll be back next week for a whole brand new episode. Kyle, you want to take us out, man?
Be good, have fun, let's go.